I'm not even sure if that's the right intro for this episode. But anyway, it'll suffice because it's all I got. So welcome to another retro review and in-depth discussion with me, your host, Lance Steen Anthony Nielsen, to use my full abbreviated name. Now, I've got a couple of guests with me already in the green room. One of them has only just seen The Thin Red Line for the very first time today. So I'm glad I was able to light a fire under the arse of the Pumpkin King. Here he is.
Hello.
Good to have you on, Gord King.
Oh, my backside is properly lit.
Indeed. I mean, what a great film to light your arse under with The Thin Red Line, because there's so much to say about it. I mean, we'll get into it in a second, but you know, they both came out around the same time. I think Thin Red Line just after Private Ryan. But before we go any further, because Saving Private Ryan is predominantly set in France, it would be unseemly not to have a French member of our trio. Here he is, the Uninspired reviewer.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Not too bad. So I've got a pop quiz question for you, Uninspired reviewer.
All right.
Of the days of the 100 plus days filming shoot of Saving Private Ryan, how many of those days took place in France?
Probably 0, I'm guessing.
Correct. 0 is correct. All the filming was done in the UK and Ireland.
Yep. Studios and the beach and stuff like that. They probably weren't allowed to shoot on Omaha Beach anyways.
They were, but they because they went to look at it, but because it had it has the cemetery, of course, located right behind it. So building bunkers and all of that, even though they could have worked with some of the bunkers that are still sitting there, albeit in a very dilapidated state. I think in the end they wanted somewhere where they could have a clean slate. And I mean, we're jumping topics here a bit, but there was a British council. Always trust a British council to screw things up. They were given the opportunity of having the beach in the north of England, and they found the beach they wanted, and the council just caused problems. It just, you know, and in the end they just thought, okay, well, we'll go and look for somewhere else then. And so they ended up filming in a place called Curracoe Beach in County Wexford, which is on the east coast of Ireland, just south of Dublin. And I'm going to show you guys exactly where in a bit. But I thought we'd talk about The Thin Red Line first, because Saving Private Ryan gets talked about quite a lot. But The Thin Red Line, not so much, which for me, personally, I think is a bit of a shame. Admittedly, it's not an easy film to just whack the DVD on when you've got a pizza and whatnot. Oh, what shall I watch today? Oh, yeah, fancy a good war film. Oh, yeah, let's put The Thin Red Line on. I don't think that's a chain of thought that occurs to a lot of people.
No.
Whereas Saving Private Ryan is probably up there. So Gord King has only just seen it for the first time today. Uninspired reviewer, you're only about 12 years old. When did you watch it?
So I watched this in, let's say, 2020, I think, for the first time. And man, it was an experience, because I don't know. To me, weird stuff always happens in my life where the films or the media I consume is reflective of how I'm feeling at that moment in my life. And The Thin Red Line is a movie that I had put off for years because I don't know, it was weird. And I don't know, I was just at a very low point in my life, and I was trying to find essentially the meaning of life, and I was very philosophical at that point. And I don't know, I just decided, hey, The Thin Red Line has been on my computer for a while. Let me finally check it out. And
was this during the period of the dating of the lady in Rouen that we discussed earlier? Is that why all this deep thought?
I mean, it was a bit after, but that ended badly. So yeah, it was, remnants of that was still in my life.
I'm feeling a bit weird about life. I'm going to put on the Thin Red Line, and everything's going to be amazing.
That's actually how it happened, and that's how it ended up being. It was good.
Yeah, it is a good movie. It's not going to be for everyone. I will.
Ooh, no.
If you like Saving Private Ryan, that's not a guaranteed thing that you're going to love.
Agreed.
The Thin Red Line, but well, let's get into the Thin Red Line. So, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it predominantly takes place in the Battle of Guadalcanal, 1942. It follows a whole plethora of different characters, both lower ranks and some of the officers who command them. You've got a phenomenal range of acting talent in this film.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And one of the things that was sort of unclear to the actors when they were filming, and I've done quite a bit of digging on this, is that they weren't really sure who was the lead, but lots of people thought that they were the lead. Like Sean Penn, I think he thought he was the lead.
I think ultimately that sentiment turns out to be very appropriate. I think that plays into the theme of the movie pretty well.
Yeah.
I agree, because I guess our man who was in that film I saw recently about human trafficking, whose
Sound
voice
of Freedom, Jim Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel, right?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, and you can really tell he's in touch with his religious roots in this movie. I mean, ultimately, I guess it's probably mainly Jim Caviezel's film, as he's got the biggest arc and probably.
Yeah, I think the movie mostly kind of. I think I would call him at least the heart of the movie. And if I had to pick a main character, I think it kind of is him. But I think you can make that argument for about 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah, because Elias Koteas has a really great storyline.
I can't believe he didn't get more after this.
Yeah,
I mean, my gosh!
When you look up his IMDb, because I was even looking it up just to have all the names down. You have to scroll down so much before just finding his name as like Staros in the movie. It's so crazy. It's just because all the other actors in the movie just became massive stars, even though they had tiny roles. So they're automatically just pushed up in the IMDb algorithms, I guess. It's kind of like the Dazed and Confused thing, where they were all nobodies that just ended up making one movie, and that's where everyone can retrace them back to. Same with the Thin Red Line.
I know him from a couple. Because he played Casey Jones in Ninja Turtles, and never really took off after that. And yet he has this really big role in this, and it's just excellent. Yep. And the only movies I can think of off the top of my head that he was in after that were he had a small part in Zodiac, and I think he's in the American remake of Let the Right One In, Let Me In. I think he's in that.
I think he's in that too.
Yeah, that's the only movies I can think of off the top of my head that he's in.
I've seen him in probably I can think of him in 3 or 4 roles where I've gone, wow, who is this guy? And most of them are probably from around that time. He's got a pretty good role in Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. The action film from 2007, which I think is a very, very good movie. I think a lot of that will depend on whether you're a Wahlberg fan. He had a pretty good role in Shutter Island. He had a role in Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Yeah. I'll have to grill Jason about whether he got to meet him, because I can't remember if they had any scenes together. And then it's quite funny that he did a voice on American Dad. You wouldn't picture him as an actor doing that. Collateral, you're right. It's I'm looking at his credits, and he's not stopped working, but it does feel like he should have been given some bigger roles off the back of this. Earlier in his career, I remember him in Tucker the Man in His Dream, which I watched again recently. Not a huge role in that.
Well, wasn't The Thin Red Line a sort of a commercial failure, which is why maybe he probably wasn't, I don't know, put into other movies? Because Jim Caviezel's career also, you could also argue that he hasn't had a very strong career.
Well, his is for a different reason, but
yeah,
it grossed 9.7 million during its opening weekend, which doesn't sound huge.
No.
But the movie altogether only did 98 million worldwide. I mean, the budget was 52 million, so but didn't make.
So it did okay, but it didn't do. You know, if you compare that to Saving Private Ryan, and we might as well while we're talking about how well these films did.
Mm-hmm.
Saving Private Ryan had an opening weekend of 30 million.
Right.
So that's already what was the budget on Thin Red Line?
About 52 million.
Right. So that's nearly 2/3 of that budget back already. And then ultimately,
Saving Private Ryan made about almost 5 times as much.
Yeah, worldwide gross 481 million.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to jump around too much, but I think would we all agree that Saving Private Ryan is a more accessible film?
Yes, it's much more mainstream.
Yeah,
definitely.
For a more mainstream audience. This film is quite a cerebral, spiritual experience, and I watched it again yesterday. The core message that I get from the film, and it's an examination of nature's war with man and man's war against nature, and how the two interact when they come into conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Do we agree?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very existential. Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of. It's actually interesting when I remember that they cut 45 minutes. They had a cut that he was happy with, that Malick was happy with, but it was 45 minutes longer than the cut that we've probably all seen. And he went in and he cut 45 minutes out of it, and predominantly all of the 45 minutes that they cut was dialogue. So one of the things I really noticed in the movie is you get lots of shots of the main actors in it, even though some of them feature in it quite a bit, but the number of lines they have is really quite small. Like Nick Stahl has almost no lines in the film, like 2 or 3, you know, mostly when he's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other actors like, oh, that's a big actor. my friend Donal Logue's in it, but he's got almost no lines. So I think a lot of actors had a lot more lines that just got cut. But there's lots of shots of the camera holding on people.
Yeah.
While they're not talking.
I mean, I agree. I think that it's weird to say, because I feel like the movie in itself is something that's very complete. I don't think that it needs any addition. So maybe those 45 minutes that he took out were just, you know, hammering in that point of nature and humans and the philosophical questions that keep getting posed by different characters in the movie.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I haven't seen the 45 minutes that are cut. That's entirely possible, but I have read about it, and
just out of curiosity, how long is that? Because just so I can get a beat on which cut I watched. Because I watched the one that was about 2 hours 50 minutes.
Yeah, no, the running time of the standard release is just under 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So 171 minutes. So 9 minutes shy of 3 hours.
Right.
So, you know, you're looking at a 3.5 hour movie with an extra 45 minutes. It does say, if you do a bit of digging, that I mean, for example, Bill Pullman, Lucas Haas, and Mickey Rourke all had scenes in the movie, but all of those scenes were ultimately cut.
Wow.
So I mean, I would have loved to have seen Bill Pullman. Must have been an officer, I would have thought.
Yeah, that would suit him.
Mickey Rourke, maybe some kind of frazzled sergeant. And it's interesting also to note that when they did the initial read through, because everybody wanted in on this film, because Malick is a bit of a legend, actors all want to work with him, because this was the first film he'd done in a very long time. So people were, taking jets off of their current film sets just to go and be with him for a couple of hours. Viggo Mortensen and Martin Sheen sat in on read-throughs of the first script.
Ooh.
So so they were involved at one stage, and the post-production editing the film lasted 13 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, can you imagine being in dark editing rooms as they would have been back then? Well, still are for the most part. And Adrian Brody was one of the people who he thought he'd signed on as a role to carry the movie, and found that he'd been reduced to 2 lines and approximately 5 minutes of screen time. But you know what? You remember his character, though.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, the studio screened the unfinished version for critics, and Sean Penn ended up helping him out in the editing room, shaping the final version. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. And it took them 3 more months to edit out another 45 minutes of the film.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
I mean, it always seems hard for a director to remove that much of a movie, because 45 minutes is it's a pretty hefty sum, It's a big chunk.
That's and that's where you gotta, you have to check your own ego, or else,
the studio will do it for you.
Well, they'll do it for you, or they won't, and then you'll be possibly, risking self-indulgence. That's
I mean, like George Clooney's scene in it is practically a nothing scene,
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's funny because I actually love the way they handled his appearance. I don't even know if it was necessarily intentional because of how much was edited out, but what Sean Penn is narrating kind of fits the fact that, here's this recognizable face to the audience, and he's just like, they just keep filtering these guys in and out. And I was like, yep, I think that plays well to that.
No, I really liked it. He's kind of like another Nick Nolte, but sort of a younger version of him who's not quite so frazzled, and does the big speech about an army unit's like a family. It's got a mother, that's the sergeant over there, and it's got a father, that's me, and you do what the father says, and all of this kind of thing. Another interesting fact about the production is that they the score, which Austin Cayley, who's in the chat, who's an actor, thanks for popping in, Austin. He says, don't finish this conversation without talking about the soundtrack. I agree. This is one of Hans Zimmer's best scores.
And it's one of his least identifiable, oddly. I agree. Was really about 2 hours in. I was like, gosh, the score is so great. I wonder who did it. And it said Hans Zimmer. I was like, I never would have guessed that. It sounds nothing like a lot of his music, and it's great. Well, it's very unique.
I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it was written before the movie and before he'd seen any footage.
Okay.
He recorded huge reams of music based on the script and what Malick told him he wanted. And during some of the scenes, during some of the takes even, Malick had the score played out on the set with the speakers on. So the actors would know the mood that he was going for. And I mean, to be able to do that is quite incredible, because music is so important for any movie.
Yeah.
And it really underscores the emotional tones, and it builds tension in this film incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I feel like the score in this movie is incredible, because it just complements the film. And even though I like my score to be sort of on the low, not too on the nose with what's going on, I just feel like this one just complements it in such a great way. Because, like, for an example, right now I'm doing an Old Boy analysis, the original one from 2003. And I feel like the score is being used essentially almost in the same way in The Thin Red Line, where it's just complementing what you see, complementing the feelings of the characters and everything else. It just creates this perfect storm. And to know that it's Hans Zimmer, it's like, man, what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's I love the fact that I love musical scores that don't drive you to feel a certain thing.
Yes.
Or like that don't give
Manipulate
away. It's like,
you.
like horror movies are kind of notorious for this, where they're giving away
Yeah,
exactly
sure.
how you should feel in the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas it's almost like you have three various forces of nature. You have, nature itself, just Earth being Earth. You have man being man at his height of conflict. And then you have this music that's kind of like, it almost makes me wonder if he made him record it without seeing it, just so it's like, just record naturally based on what you're reading here. And I'll do the rest, because it feels very natural in that way. Like you could almost detach it from the movie itself. You could almost think different things about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Gourd King, I've just realised you're not on the scrolling credits during the stream. We can't have that.
What?
Yeah, what? What's going on?
The king of the gourds. No.
I'm gonna have to amend that quickly. Just while we're scrolling through, I've seen all these. It's one of the great things about IMDb is you often get to see all these different posters. This one feels like somebody kind of had a mutated son of the Rings of Power meets the Thin Red Line.
I've actually had this poster on my computer for the better part of, I think, like 4 or 5 years.
I've never seen this one before.
It's in my photo gallery on my computer. I've had it for a while. I just think that it's a good poster. I don't really know if it reflects the movie properly. A bit, yeah. I think that it would be better if it reflected. I would say that this movie, like this poster specifically, probably reflects Welsh's character's perceptions.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I've seen a really funny comedy version of this with The Simpsons, and it's like Bart and a couple of other people, and I think that paid homage to the episode where they take on Nielsen and get rid of the bully, and they all like train to be soldiers to get rid of him. Is the movie originally based on a book?
Yes. It's
have any of you guys read it?
I haven't read it. I think the author is the same person who wrote From Here to Eternity. I think it was written maybe it was published, I think, in the early 60s. There was actually another version of this movie in 64.
Really?
I
did not know that.
I think it was David Macy in the chat. He said, "Is this a remake of the 64 film or totally different?" Well, I Googled it real quick, and it's the same thing. So, there is an older version of this.
Yeah, I've just seen there's
Yep.
I've got to watch that version. If I'd known that, honestly, Lance, do better research, man. Get myself off because I'm normally quite on the ball with this kind of shit. So yeah, I vaguely remembered it was based on a book, 1962 novel of the same name.
Much shorter. The old one's a much shorter movie. It's only like an hour 39 from what I'm seeing.
Are you sure? For me, it says 3 hours.
Huh.
And it stars Keir
I'm looking at it on IMDb. It says 1 hour 39.
Right.
Huh.
I'm not seeing 99 minutes according to Wikipedia, which, as we know, must be correct.
Yeah, it's true. Because what's it called? The Google version just probably has a confusion between the two ones.
That's I would think so. Jack Warden is in the 1964 version, so that's interesting. Right, he's a great actor. I mean, let's talk about some of the other things in the film. It's not quite as the violence is there. People are getting shot, and there's violence and brutality, but you don't quite get. It's despite scenes with shelling and all the rest of it. I didn't see as many exploding bodies and people holding onto their guts, hanging out their stomach, and there wasn't quite that same visceral level of gore.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it tried not to invoke the visceral level of gore that something like Saving Private Ryan does, but essentially what happens after that, you mostly see a lot of the soldiers grieving, and so I think that's like the main point of the movie. with the because it does struggle with mortality. That's one of the main things: mortality, immortality, and nature. Through all of that, are you immortal through nature? Is that where the calm comes from? And so I think that it shows the war sparingly, the violence sparingly, but it shows you what happens after it a lot. So, for example, when they're going up the hills for the first time, what you have is anticipation. You find the 2 dead bodies that are cut up, but you don't see a lot of the war happening itself. So it's just
the impression.
Message.
The impression I got was, okay, so like Saving Private Ryan, for example, without saying too much about that, I think is far more like about putting the audience in, giving them an idea of what the experience of war was about, what was sacrificed, all of these collections of men, letting you get to know a few of them and, the cost, the toll it took. But, it created caricatures to do that, so you could get kind of a general sense of what was sacrificed man to man. This one was much more about individuals and their internal monologues and how they deal with it personally. So it's almost like when you see violence or you see, the initial 2 bodies that are messed up really bad, you're getting more POV versions of violence, how they experience the violence. Like that, for me, the best shot moment of the movie came very early on, where he asked those 2 guys, I think it's Jared Leto, he's motioning these 2 guys to go forward. It's really quiet. You're just seeing nature all around. It's just very relaxed, and
they don't really want to go either.
They're just kind of like hesitant, like, are you serious? And it's like, just y'all need to go, we need to do this. And one thing they never do in this, they never really, it's like they tell you the mission, but you're never really aware of what the point is. And these 2 guys go forward and all this quiet, and then just these gunshots sound like snaps of the finger, and these 2 guys just drop. It's so quick. And then you see this, like, I guess a cloud moves past the sun, and you see the sun come over the grass the way it does, and then it just erupts in violence. It is so amazingly well done, and it's just like, gosh, this is beautiful and terrifying at the same time. My favorite part of the movie.
The grass almost takes on a very sort of haunting, almost organic character in that scene.
And the way they show them like running and all these explosions happening like right behind them, it's just this, it's like becomes its own force of this inescapable force of nature that they're all just running from.
Just let me read out this super chat real quick, because I'm still at the stage where I get so few that I can read them out as they come in. And I'll enjoy that for as long as it lasts. So RRTNZ, and he's always sending me these super chats. So I do really appreciate that, RRTNZ, especially as I know times are hard and you're saving up for that swimming pool in the house. Hail Lance and Felix. So is one of my guests really called Felix here, because I'm pretty sure I've got a Felix Claus band contract in my, on my channel.
Well, I mean, I am the Frenchman, so.
Okay, that's got to be you. At work, so I'll catch this later. Congrats again on the great Tim Thomason stream. That was a good stream. Interesting film for comparison. Yes, they are indeed. Thanks very much for that, RNTNZ. We got Melvin in the chat as well. And of course, Keith is always here lurking about. Desert Phoenix, who's a veteran, saving Ryan's privates. Let's not get into that alternative version of the Tom Hanks movie. That's an entirely different stream. So sticking with this, okay. So one of the things I'm going to talk about the cast a little bit before we move on and where it was filmed, but this is the last shot in the movie. It's here. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen it. But good news, it's not giving anything away. Now, my take on this is, right, in this shot, this is what I got from this, because I remember when I saw this at the cinema on a pretty big screen, and I remember that was the last shot, and I remember like, what's that? What was that supposed to mean? And I had to sit down and see the film again. I own the DVD; it's sitting right over there. And what I get from this is, ultimately, even if man comes and scars nature, as it has done by blowing part of this plant onto the beach where it shouldn't be, the plant has still re-emerged. It's spawned new shoots. It's got new leaves. So ultimately, no matter how much man scars nature, in the end, even if it takes a long time, nature will prevail and it will come back. Now that's what I got from this image. This is part of nature beginning to heal again from the scars of man. That's what I got from that. Gord King, what did you get from it, having only seen it once?
I guess what I would, on initial viewing, what it reminds me of is the way I'd put it is, it kind of okay. So they show several different times, at the beginning of the movie and near the end of the movie, there's these shots of, Jim Caviezel kind of his character, immersing himself in these other people's very simple lives. They show him swimming in the ocean and whatnot. And, spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't seen it. This is a pretty big spoiler. His character dies and they bury him, and they have his gun in the ground with his helmet on it.
Yeah.
And they have this shot where you could almost say that looks almost like a gun in the ground with a helmet beside it. And it's on the ocean, almost like kind of, because this movie talks a lot about eternity or evokes feelings of that and everything. It's almost like, is he living on this way, or, and it's, and similar things to what you were talking about, but it reminded me of him, I guess the best way to put it.
It could also be a swan with a punky haircut, but they probably weren't going for that. Uninspired reviewer, what did you get from this final shot?
I'm sort of with Gord King on this, because I think that because at the end of the movie, when he has the moment of calm that he's been searching for the entire film, since the first time we see him, and this is what he wants. It's this immortality that he constantly talks about. So to me, I just see this as him being not sort of reborn, but him essentially just living on. As David Macy says, life will prevail. Life always finds a way. That's what they say.
Interesting. That's yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, it for me, it does kind of represent a rebirth in a way. So we're kind of all we're all leaning in the same direction.
And considering the Witt's character is, what we would say the central character of this, I may have to check back, but whenever, because they do set up the internal monologues of different characters. I think there are like 4 or 5 ones that they set up.
Sean Penn gets one. Witt gets one. Isn't there one from Elias Cote's character?
Yes.
Starros has one. Tall, I don't know if he has one. Nick Nolte's character.
He has some.
Yeah, he does. He has one on the ship, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then there's the guy with his wife. I forget his name.
Yeah. Hang on, I'll look it up real quick.
That's the actor is British actor. Is it Ben Chaplin?
Yeah, Bell.
Yeah, and so essentially, like, if maybe I go back and look at the movie again with that in mind, do they all have the end that they want to, like the answer of the question that they had posed themselves at the beginning of the movie in that internal monologue?
I would say Bell probably is the one that he gets an answer that he doesn't want, obviously, because he, his story ends up being very sad. It's very sad what happens with him. And then let me think. Caviezel, part of what I thought was interesting about what ultimately happens with Caviezel's arc is how it plays into the conversations he had with Sean Penn, because there's a very, you can tell, they, at the very least, respect each other, but they have very different worldviews.
Yeah.
Very different views of what they're going through. And the interesting thing that happens with Caviezel is he finds that moment doing the thing that Penn's character says he would never do. It's like, you're not going to help anyone. You're not going to make a difference. And ultimately, he's responsible for warning them and saving their lives.
And well, you can say the same for Penn, because Penn, the first time that we see him cry properly is for Caviezel's character.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
He's seeing that other world that Caviezel's character continuously talks about, the one that Penn says that he can't even fathom it existing.
Damn, this is getting really deep, guys. I feel like I need to put on a kimono or something. Okay, so I just noticed Miranda Otto's in the film. I did not spot that was her.
I knew that. I picked that up immediately. I was like, hey,
yeah, I recognized
it's Eowyn.
Yep.
That probably
looking
suggests
phenomenal.
that probably suggests you studied her female form far more intimately than you should, Georgie.
I've seen Lord of the Rings a lot. What can I say?
Yeah, dude, I'm with you there. But on this occasion, I didn't pick up on the fact that it was her. I don't know if I'd registered that before. That's a very brutal scene. I remember that scene.
Yeah,
well.
And I mean, like to bounce back on what we were saying between the opposing views of Sean Penn's character and Jim Caviezel's character, you can also say the same for Staros and Tall, so Elias Koteas and Nick Nolte. You know, those four characters essentially are. Like it's through those four characters and through how they clash off each other that the film's main themes essentially transcend through the audience. It's because of them. So you have Staros and Tall who are fighting. You have Wit and Welsh who are mostly the main ones. But I do find it interesting that the Thin Red Line just has so many different views that it tries to convey to the audience and manages to do them all. In my personal opinion, I think that it succeeds in all of them, which is why it makes it
to where it does not give you an easy side to take when you see differences. Like there's that part where Nick Nolte's character is accosting Elias Koteas because he's not following his order and everything. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to come down there. I'm going to see what's going on. And ultimately they do what Nolte says. And there's the party that wants at first maybe to hate him for not sympathizing with him and even considering he might be wrong. But at the end of the day, it's like he kind of is, he gets what he wants and it's more or less proven right. And I love that they didn't necessarily take a side on who was right in this. They're like, this is kind of for you to decide.
I've got to pick you up there a little bit. He didn't continue the frontal attack. He stalled it, and then
he stalled it, and then he ultimately still did it, and then of course relieved him after.
The small group that went round the flank, which is why they were able to get up to the bunker predominantly unseen.
Right. Well, okay, and then what I guess it's more. I'm referring to when he relieved him of command.
Yeah, I mean,
after the fact,
which
he's like, I don't think you have it to do this. I want to. It's like I don't want to make a big fuss out of this. I don't want to, hurt your career or anything. But you're not. You're not cut out for this.
Yeah.
And it's like you want to be completely against Nolte there, but there's the party. It's like is he right? It's like it's war. It's like because there's a party. It's like maybe. Koteas is right. It's like you're not in the midst of this, you're not seeing it, but at the same time, you could consider, well, maybe that's why a person standing on the outside is important. It's like war is kind of a brutal chess game, and there's that ruthless calculus that goes in there, and you sometimes do need the people who are not connected, who don't have to feel what you're all feeling, to look at the situation objectively and say, look, this is what you have to do. I know it's going to cost stuff.
Nolte's character is kind of a glory seeker, though.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Say, this is my last chance, and you set that up right at the beginning with Travolta as well. With the scene with them on the boat.
Yeah. Well, Lance, that's the beauty of it. That's where the movie gets you in. You having to choose a side, it's very difficult because, as Gord said, on the one hand, this is war, this is what we need in war sometimes, but on the other hand, that his character is there for the glory. So is he completely justified? And the film continuously does that with each of the different characters and their perspectives, and that's what keeps challenging you.
It doesn't make it easy for you. It's David Macy, who's again is another actor watching. Did they do this film on 52 million? They did. And with the cast, did they get a deferred payment or something? So no, the answer to that is a lot of the cast, not all of them, but a lot of the cast did this film at scale, meaning minimum rates, just so that they could do a film with Terrence Malick. And that's how he got so many of the what were the Brat Pack of the day. I've got John C. Reilly up here at the minute now. By the time he did this movie, he'd already done the Vietnam one with Sean Penn, Casualties of War. So he'd already done one big movie, and he had a supporting lead role in that. And he'd also just got off of filming Magnolia, I think, before he did this. So he was an actor of some note, and you've got a lot of other people at a similar level that were just, they were all their careers were bubbling. They were doing pretty well. That any one of them could have broken big at any time, and some of them, like Penn, were already big.
John C. Reilly had also done a pretty underrated movie, I think, from '94, The River Wild with Meryl Streep
with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I always thought that. I remember that was the first movie I ever saw John C. Reilly in. So if I had seen Thin Red Line when it came out, I've been like, oh, there's the guy from The River Wild. Cool.
I absolutely love John C. Reilly. I did a kind of my favorite character actors blog. It's not a video, and I will do a video about it, but it's on my blog on my book website, which no one ever reads.
His range is highly underrated. I think most people today think he's just a comedian. It's like, no, he can do a lot more than comedy.
Yeah.
And but he does get typecast in comedy.
He kind of gets typecast as sort of quirky, big, lovable, slightly thick guys who, the sort of the big dumb lug kind of thing. I think his performance as the policeman in Magnolia is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, when he loses his gun. Have you guys seen that?
Yep.
That film. I saw that film at the cinema, and everybody I know that saw that movie at the cinema loved it, and everybody that saw it on video or DVD didn't like it.
I first saw it on Blu-ray and I loved it. I didn't see it in the theater.
Good for you, Gord King. No wonder you're the king of the pumpkin people. Well, do you know what, guys? We'll do another stream about Magnolia because that's a film I'd really like to chew the fat on for sure.
Oh yeah.
So there he is again, first-rate cast in the show. There's another actor I want to give a shout out to, not Matt Doran, although he was pretty good in a very small role. It's the guy who, not Adrian Brody, who we spend a lot of time with him. He doesn't have loads of lines. Might have to get the cast list up if they don't show me a still of him soon. This guy, Dash Mahook. And I mean, with a name like that, I would have thought I would have known who he was already. But I've looked at his IMDb, and he has done absolutely loads of stuff.
Oh yeah, he has. Very recognizable face.
Now I'm trying to see. I don't recognize his name. I'm trying, but his face looked familiar. I'll have to look him up.
I know, and you would think that you that name would stick with you. But I guess this is the first time I've looked him up, so to speak. But he's done some really, really good work, and I think he's fantastic in this because he kind of conveys the emotional range of Ray Donovan's the big thing that he's done recently.
I remember him from Romeo and Juliet. That's where
he was Benvolio. But he conveys the emotional range of someone who's in combat for the first time, because that's the face that he's got in like 75% of his shots. And
the fear.
Yeah, I mean, he's just constantly crapping himself, but also sort of like trying to do the right thing at the same time. I mean, he's done a number of movies, number of big TV shows. I really rate him, and it doesn't surprise me that he's gone on to have such a good career because he's so good in this.
I remember him in The Day After Tomorrow, I think.
Was he in that?
I think so, yeah. Well, let me just
have a look.
His IMDb, I think.
I was thinking of The Day After. That's way before that. The Day After is the one about the nuclear attack, which was a film that was made in the 80s, which isn't as good as the British film called Threads, which came out around the same time.
Yeah, I think Threads is 84.
Threads is a brutal film, and you can watch it for free on YouTube. You can watch The Day After for free on YouTube, and they both came out within a year of each other.
Yes, Dash is in Day After Tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. The Day After Tomorrow is the one where the world freezes over.
Yeah, with Jake Gyllenhaal, Roland Emmerich. That's why I recognize him from, because I watched that a lot as a kid.
I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was in Deep Impact, or is he in Day After Tomorrow also?
No, he's the main character of Day After Tomorrow.
There you go.
Oh, I thought that was someone else. I haven't seen it. So.
Well, somebody else may have thought that they were the
all those disaster films. They all kind of
Dennis Quaid.
It's Dennis Quaid is who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So Lance, I do have a number for you. So adjusted for inflation, the budget of 52 million today would be around just under 98 million.
Right.
So that would be the
budget. It's all on the screen. To be fair, it's all on the screen. There's a lot of great sequences, really good action. Yeah, so let me just see if there's any other cast on the movie that I want to give a shout out to before we.
I know Woody Harrelson has a brief part in it, and yeah, it's fun. It's like he has this scene where it starts off, you almost want to react like it's funny, but it does kill him. And it's like, oh gosh, it's like you almost think like, oh no, that couldn't, because they're not showing what happened. He's just saying, I blew my butt off, and you're like, oh, that's funny.
One of the people,
oh no, it was true, and they don't want to show it, and I'm like, oh wow,
yeah, you were expecting the camera to pan down and see like his legs missing or something, weren't you?
That would be comedic.
That.
Or almost like that. Oh no, it's okay, like it was a dud or something. Like you almost a lesser movie would have been like, oh no, you're in shock right now, but you're actually okay. You just got a little wound or something. But it's like, no, actually, whatever happened to him was too awful to show.
Yep.
I was surprised to learn that Mark Boone Jr. from Sons of Anarchy was in this film.
Okay, I couldn't pin down who exactly. Is he the guy who's like losing his mind the whole time, or who is he?
I'm not sure. Here he is when he's really young.
Yeah.
So I think he's the really young kid in it. This
is 10 years before Thin Red Line. This is 86. I'm seeing
right. So
this would have been a little bit
maybe not the really young kid. Then I just was wondering if they might have a picture of Thin Red Line with his photos here, but I'm not seeing them.
I'll look up him.
Lots of shots of him with pizza boxes. That seems appropriate. It seems appropriate. I love him as an actor. I think he's really good. One of the things that I remember differently when I saw the film in the cinema was the scene with John Cusack and Nick Nolte, where Nick Nolte is trying to justify his decision-making process to John Cusack. He does that long speech, and Cusack's just like saying nothing. He's standing in front of him, and he keeps going on and trying to justify that he sent all these men to their deaths. And Cusack just keeps nodding. And I'm sure when I saw it in the cinema, I'm sure that scene was longer. It seemed to be over a lot quicker on the DVD. But that was a really good scene. Yeah. Cusack's not pretty good in the movie, but we don't see much of him. And of course, a lot of people won't work with him now, sadly. So you don't see tons of him around these days. Don Harvey's an actor that I really rate, who was in The Untouchables. He's Kevin Costner's driver in The Untouchables. Okay. He shares like a sandwich with him just before they do the "Come on, man, let's do some good." He plays a lot of he's a character actor. He's always really good in everything that he's in. A really young Thomas Jane was in the movie. Did you guys spot that?
Yes, I noticed him.
I did.
I noticed him. It took a sec to realize that's who it was, because he's I'm used to seeing him with darker hair, but he's a little more blonde in the movie, and I was like, that's Thomas Jane.
And that's quite an unusual scene, because he's that guy that's like injured up on the hill.
Yeah.
And Caviezel finds him, and he can't walk, and he's like, "Do you want a
morphine?
Me to give you and he's like,
no, Thomas Jane's not the morphine guy. That's a.
Oh, was that not? I thought that was Thomas Jane.
Oh wait, are there more than one soldiers that get morphine? Because there's the one that they give the morphine to because he's dying.
Not that one.
Yeah,
okay.
My bad,
I guess I must have just forgotten that he asked about morphine.
No, it's the guy who's on the guy who's on the hill. I'm sure that was Jane.
Okay.
And he offers to help him walk, and he says, no, I'm just gonna stay here. I kind of like it. It's peaceful here. It's nice. Somebody else will come along and get me eventually. Yeah. And you're kind of thinking, dude, you don't want to be sitting around here in Indian country with Japanese with their bayonets wandering about.
Yeah.
I was thinking that's a bad decision, man. John Savage, do you guys remember him from The Deer Hunter?
It's been a really long time since I've seen a Deer Hunter, but
he plays one of the officers in the movie. He's a phenomenal actor, and he had a major role in The Deer Hunter. He's the one who ends up in the wheelchair. And
he's in one of the Russian roulette scenes, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, he is. He is in that scene.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a really great actor. He's done a couple of really good roles, especially early in his career. And I mean, if you know, Nick Stahle's another actor that I really like, who we don't see enough of. Now, I think he had a drug problem and had to go into rehab for a while. But he's always been really good in everything I've seen him in. So I think he's on the mend. I think I think that part of his life is long over. So it'd be great to see him do more stuff.
He's started to take up roles again. I see on his IMDb page, he's got pretty good amount of recent work. So
yeah, look how young he is here, and with good old Uncle Mel, saying, you know, now listen, kid, don't do drugs. Okay, Mel. So how's that rant going? Yeah, so you know, and then Donal Logue, my buddy, was in the movie as well, and he's got a you know, skip and you'll miss it part. But these people were all out there for a long time. They were all, I think most of them were all out there for the duration, especially the people that played
another guy who made
file men.
He's another actor who had a small part in Zodiac. I bring up Zodiac a lot because I love that movie. That's one of my favorite films of all time. So
he's one of he's the reporter, I think, in it.
No, Coteus and Logue are both they both play detectives, but in different jurisdictions.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's one of the detectives. That's right. Donal has actually said he'll come on the channel at some point.
Ooh, awesome. That'd be awesome. He's got a really nice collection of movies he's in.
An incredibly impressive resume, and just the nicest man as well. And actually, how me and him met was we met on MySpace.
Oh.
And he'd done a film that some friends of mine were in, and I wanted to ask him about it. And I wrote to him and I said, "Hey, is this the real Donal Logue?" Yes, it is. And I said, and the funny thing was, I was like, just because, you know, I'm not sure, and MySpace was all new, and I didn't know if it was really like the real people. I ended up having a conversation with Elijah Wood on there.
Wow.
At one point before he shut his profile down. And telling him about the impact that Lord of the Rings had on my life and all this. And he was like, "Oh, man, that's so nice to hear. Thank you very much." But Donal, I actually said, because I wanted to get into quite a deep conversation with him. And I said, "Dude, here's my phone number. You can withhold yours, but could you just give me a ring so I can actually really hear it's you?" 2 seconds later, the phone rings. "Hey, Lance." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, it's definitely you, Donal. Thanks." Cool. And he had his kids in the car, and so that's how much of a stand-up guy he is. So, Uninspired reviewer, as you're French, we'll let you go first. Ooh. What do you give this out of 10 on IMDb?
For me, The Thin Red Line, I'd probably give it 9, just because it resonates still so much with me, and at the time I watched it, it gave me, let's say, a path to answers that I needed. You know, and
yeah, and
it's a very like personal movie for me, and it's a great movie that you can rewatch. I mean, even just as a war movie, it does have great scenes and great setting. It is unique in that aspect.
Yeah, I noticed a lot more in the movie when I watched it this time around. And Gord King, you're definitely going to have to give it a second view at some point.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, Gord King, what's your rating?
I mean, my initial rating.
Yours is more of a gut reaction. You've only just seen
gut reaction is I would say 8.5, just because I'm somewhere between an 8 and a 9 just for that first viewing, because I was just kind of taking it all in, and I rarely hand out 10s on first viewings anyway. But I'm somewhere at least between an 8 and a 9. There was a lot of movies that what I felt watching it kind of reminded me of, and all of which I love. So yeah, this is definitely a movie I'm going to be rewatching hopefully pretty soon. It was pretty excellent.
My opinion of it has changed. When I first saw it, I liked it, but I was kind of disappointed because I was expecting a more traditional historical narrative, and I thought this was going to be the Longest Days version of Guadalcanal. And in some ways, it kind of is like The Longest Day in the sense of the number of characters and everything. But I didn't really get what Malick was trying to do until I'd seen the film a couple of times. and now I get something different from it every time I watch it. So for me now, it's a 9 out of 10.
But Lance, since you watched it when it was released in the cinemas, how was it received among the people that you had seen it with? Were they also like you, expecting a full-blown war movie, considering Saving Private Ryan had come out just a couple of months prior?
Yeah, I went with a couple of friends of mine, and this is a difficult period of me to remember because of my time in hospital. But from what I remember, I went to see it with 2 people, and we all kind of had a similar vibe. Yeah, it was good, but what was all this stuff about the plants and what's going on? And and I think also I was wanting a bit more of a historical, traditional film. That was me then when I walked through the door. Now I absolutely love it for what it is. I wouldn't change a thing. And I picked up on so many more things, like, there's a fighter plane that lands in the background of one shot, that literally comes down on the runway as these 2 guys are talking. I don't think I ever noticed that before. I probably did in the cinema, but I've just picked up on a lot of attention to detail, and I like the fact that there's a lot of attention to detail, and I like the way they personalize the equipment with the men, which is something that the soldiers would very much do in that kind of environment. My favorite scene in the film, I'll tell you, is quite near the beginning, is the scene with Caviezel and the woman and her kid, who are obviously not actors, and I think Malik probably, or the casting director, probably just went to some local village where they were filming and, said, hey, do you 2 want to be in? Because I'm pretty sure that's that woman's child as well. And it's the only film she's ever been in. I even tried to track her down to get her to come on this. Couldn't find her, though. And I really like the way that scene is really natural, and the way she talks about her child and that sort of moment of simple life that Caviezel would like to have with them.
Yeah, I think that's such a great scene too. And even, before we completely move on from the Thin Red Line, like it does juxtapose itself later into the movie with the fact that the way that he sees the I think they're called the Melanesians or something like that. That's what they're called.
Yeah, and you get the impact on them later.
Yeah. It's like that's how he sees them. He sees them as basically this perfect view of humans being together with nature, and that's what life is about to him. That's the immortality that he's trying to look for. But then when he goes back later at the end of the movie, at the second time he meets them, it's at that point where he essentially sees the human side without the nature. But then when he reconvenes with his fellow, brothers in arms, that's where he sees the human and nature aspect. So he manages to shift his perspective from these people aren't perfect, but maybe that's just how man is. And that's why, it goes through with the philosophical question that the movie has. It's like, why is the world evil if essentially God is good, something like that. It's like it just continuously asks you that question.
Well, I mean, that would be a good conversation for another stream. Could have a field day with that one. Gord King had to pop out to protect his pumpkin patch, but he is now back. So I'm going to show you guys where a big chunk of this movie was shot, and that was Queensland, Australia. And it was shot in a national park, and also on this beach, Bramston Beach, which is fairly remote. Whether the camping ground was there or not at the time, I don't know. But this is an incredibly picturesque location. There you go. So that's the actual beach that they land on.
Wow!
And it's a pretty impressive location, and got those hills in the back, and this is Australia. This is not Guadalcanal. And they did go to the Solomon Islands, and they did a very a small short shoot there. but the majority of the principal photography was all done on mainland Queensland, Australia.
Even the the scenes in the tall grass and all of that.
Yeah, that the hills with the tall grass was actually shot in a national park in Queensland.
Oh my god!
And I can give you the name for it. Yeah, so I mean, it's amazing when you find these things out, and because I'm a filmmaker, I'm always very interested in
the locations. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, just the trickery of film. So here you go, Ella Bay National Park. So if you look at the hills here, these are those hills.
Oh my god! Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, it does look right. It does. People forget that Australia's not all desert and kangaroos.
Oh yeah, the coast is good. Once you go into the center, it's hell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna see if we can just get a road view. Just no. Okay. Clearly, the Google car decided that area was forbidden. So Gord King's just had to pop out because he's got some technical issues. So while he's doing that, I'm gonna see if I can get on a road here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right, let's have a quick look.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, look, just looking around. Look, see, this is very much the territory of the movie. You've got palm trees.
Yeah.
I mean, this road may well have even been used in a shot. Certainly looks a lot like it.
Yeah, it does. The signs really look like it.
Yeah. So is that a train line next to it? Look at that.
It looks like a
old school one. Probably not in use anymore.
Maybe.
So yeah, that's where it was filmed. Jacob Ironside's popped in. Hey, Uninspired, good to see him.
Hey, Jacob.
Pumpkin King is back. Hello, sir.
Man.
Look, we're just looking at where it was filmed in Queensland.
Oh, okay.
Northern Australia. I mean, I managed to get on a road in the sort of the relative area. So you can see just from looking at these shots of this national park, there is the landscape of the movie.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much. And when you were having your technical difficulties, we were talking about the beach that they filmed on, and this is the beach here. Oh, can we get on this bit here? It's a little car park here. I wonder.
Where is this located?
Oh, hey, this is this is all Queensland.
Nice.
See this inlet?
Yeah.
I'm going to say to you guys now, because I know it was filmed there. You guys have seen Band of Brothers Pacific, right?
Yes.
I am pretty sure this is the location for that river with that inlet where the Americans first clash with the Japanese, and they're all dug in along here. Really looks like it. And
it's been a little while since I watched, but it's
a lot of it was filmed around here. Same area.
Nice.
So most of Band of Brothers Pacific was filmed in Australia. For those people that don't know, spoiler alert. Sorry,
I didn't know that many films or TV shows were filmed in Australia. I know that because most of the time when I see Australian films filmed in Australia, thanking the Australian Film Commission and stuff like that, it's always low budget, independent Australian films themselves, which I watch a lot of. Weirdly
and me too. I love them. Absolutely love them.
Find them to be so interesting.
Have you seen Oh, it's not called Wrong Turn, but it's Mystery Road. Have you seen the Mystery Road feature film?
Mystery Road.
Make a note of that, dude.
Maybe.
It spawned a TV series and a few TV movies, but the original feature film, God, what a movie! So good.
So it's not Wrong Turn, because I know Wrong Turn.
No, wrong. No, I was reaching for the title, and that was in my head. Anyway, so that's Thin Red Line. So let's move on. I'd be curious to know what people in the chat would give Thin Red Line out of 10 on IMDb. So guys and girls and everyone in between, chuck your scores into the chat now. I'm curious to know. Let us move on to Saving Private Ryan. Now here's an interesting fact that I didn't know while I've been researching it today. I mean, you guys may not know this, but I was friends with Alan Tomkins, who was the art director on Saving Private Ryan, and I had to do a speech at his memorial, and one of the messages that was read out at his at the service was from Steven Spielberg.
Oh, wow.
Sort of, complimenting Alan on his fantastic work on Saving Private Ryan. This is how they built the bridge. So the bridge, the Alamo Bridge from Saving Private Ryan, was actually made by this company called Maybe. And, you can actually get them to build you this bridge, and they just come in and they put it down. And this is actually it on the set of Saving Private Ryan, where they're still constructing the water basin to put the water in. And of course, cool. it ended up looking like this by the time it had been dressed and all the stuff had been put on it. But that's the actual structure, and you can see it's strong enough to take heavy vehicles and so on. Awesome. So it's pretty interesting. The beach in Saving Private Ryan is here. So this is Belinska Beach. So there's a nice shot of it up here. You can see the kind of the bluffs. You've got those kind of Omaha Beach style bluffs, and when you're shooting that way, that does almost look like Pointe du Hoc sticking out. If you guys are familiar with your D-Day landmarks, there's a good shot of it the other way. If I go to the map and show you where it is, so this is on the eastern coast of Southern Ireland, just down from it's a fair way down from Dublin. So near the town of Wexford is where the unit was based. There's a famous story, and I wish we had the inside man on this, because I know he worked on Private Ryan. He'd be able to tell us the details. But I believe the farmer who owns this massive field here, he was offered a big chunk of money for the production company to rent the field, so that they could put all the unit vehicles and the honey wagons and all that stuff into his field for the duration of the shoot. And they offered him, I think it was £3,000, and he wanted 30,000.
Oh my God!
And this is now this is what I've heard. So listen, if the farmer tunes in and this is not these amounts are inaccurate, my apologies, but this is what I've heard. So the production company said, well, no, thank you. And I believe that they, hired a different field, probably this one down here or something. And, of course, the production just went ahead because they'd leased all the land, the local land to build the set on. The set was actually built about here on this section. So, and I don't know whether that car park would have been there in June of '97, I think is when it was shot.
Maybe.
But these are the bluffs and stuff. And I've studied this like long and hard, to see like, is there any kind of sign of where, they put that bunker or whatever. But the agreement was for them to return it completely as it was. And it seems to me that's what they did. But I'm pretty sure that the section of beach that they used was from here to about here. So, and Spielberg did all kinds of tricks to try and make the beach look a bit longer, because of course it's nowhere near the same size as Saving Private Ryan. If Jim Caviezel had been in the movie, he would have been well sorted, because there's a religious retreat right behind the beach. he could have taken advantage of between takes or whatever. But so there you go. That's the Saving Private Ryan beach. And then of course the other main set was filmed in Hatfield, which is approximately about an hour 15-minute drive north of where I live. I've got a whole load of there's one of the main pictures of it is here, and it was all a purpose-built constructed set on what was an old airfield, and what they did was they made a model of it first, which is this black and white image here on the left is actually the model that they built.
That's a big model.
Yeah, and they carved the bomb hits in the model. They built the houses and then carved the bomb hits in the model to work out where the bomb hits would have hit, and then reconstructed it exactly full size. So I would have loved to have had this for my Action Men wargaming figures. Would have been good fun to play around with that. There's quite a few shots of the beach, and there's not a lot of shots of the beach set. I did find one a long time ago, but I can't find it now, annoyingly. But there's just some production information. So those are the two principal locations. The film is obviously notoriously famous for the opening 20 minutes, apart from we've got the initial bit in America, and then you've got this fantastic, very visceral beach scene. Now, I'm a huge fan of The Longest Day, and that was my introduction to D-Day as a kid and as a historian. But this is no Longest Day. This is blood and guts and everything everywhere. I didn't know that the movie originally started off more as a kind of 5 guys on a mission. I don't know whether you guys know that, and then Spielberg started interviewing veterans, and one by one, the veterans kind of said to him, "Can we not have another Where Eagles Dare? Can we, could you please do for us what you did for Schindler's List?" And it was as a result of meeting all those veterans, that's what convinced him to, reorientate the script and change it and ultimately turn it into what it became. I mean, that opening 20 minutes, I saw it on a fairly big screen, and I was so stunned by the movie. The very next day, I went back to see it on the biggest screen in London, which I wish I'd seen it on in the first place.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always remember about that opening sequence is the guys that sink under the water, and then you've got those bullets that come through the water and also kill them.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other guy who drowns with his kit on because he just can't get it off and it's too heavy.
Yeah.
He drowns, and it's like that's even before these guys have got on the sand,
Yeah.
And then I think it was one of the first action sort of historical action films that really properly used sound design to convey the the real senses that the people heard. Like if a shell went off in your ear, it robbed you of your hearing for a good few seconds. And this is where the term shell shock comes from. And that whole thing where he's staggering about and he sees everything in slow motion and kids are crying and stuff, and then the guys in front of him, "What the hell do you want us to do now, sir?" Everything right up to that point is in my head. Well, in fact, the whole beach sequence really is just precision perfect filmmaking.
It is.
I was blown away. Your thoughts, Gord King. Did you see this at the cinema when it came out, or were you a baby pumpkin?
I wasn't a baby. I did not get to initially see this in a theater. I didn't get to see it till it was out. I did eventually get to see it in a movie theater in 2019. They played it nearby for the let's see what
anniversary
it's what is it, 65 years or 75 years since D-Day or something like that.
That it would have been for the D-Day 75th.
75th anniversary of D-Day. They were showing this in a theater nearby, and that was quite an experience, not just for seeing it on big screen, but there were quite a few current military personnel and veterans that were actually in the audience, not necessarily World War II veterans, but veterans.
Yeah, sure.
And so seeing the movie amongst people like that was pretty fascinating, and you could feel a very difference in emotion as opposed to like just a regular civilian like myself watching it. But I agree, those first 20 minutes, particularly that opening sequence, you're watching, this boat is moving up and down, some of the men are seasick. You're just kind of getting these little character moments with several of them. They're showing aspects of personalities. You're not necessarily sure who's who, who's a character, who's just a soldier. And then right when it's like that wheel starts spinning, it drops, and then it's just like the imaginary hand just throwing darts at a board and just seeing which ones stick. Because a lot of these men just boom, dead immediately. It happens so fast. It's chaos, and it's a horror movie, but a war movie. And absolutely perfect filmmaking.
I don't know if you remember, but in that, you know, when you cut to several faces of several men in that landing craft, most of whom you don't see again.
Yeah.
Because we haven't sort of zeroed in on the squad yet beyond Tom Sizemore and Hanks. And
they zero in on Barry Pepper briefly. They show him
Barry Pepper.
kissing
They
his
do
cross.
show that's right.
They show the one guy crossing himself. He dies immediately. He's, I think, one of the first people you see die, if not the first.
There's another guy who looks like a really grizzled veteran who's got a very taut, sort of almost ghostly face. Do you remember the guy I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's so weird that he ended up being in a play of mine. And it wasn't until we were, and he was playing the father of a military family in my play. It was about the conflict in Northern Ireland. And suddenly somebody said, oh, you know, Richard was in Saving Private Ryan. And I'm like, was he? Yeah. And I was, Richard, you were in Saving Private Ryan? Yeah, I'm in the opening sequence in the boat. And I looked at his face and I went, oh my God, yeah. I think his, do you know what? I'll get a screenshot of this guy for you in a sec, and you'll see exactly who I'm talking about. So, Uninspired review. What about you? When did you first see this? You probably weren't alive when it first came out, were you?
Oh no, I wasn't even in the works when this came out.
You were still in the ball sack, so to speak.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, when was your first viewing experience of this, and how old were you?
My first viewing would probably have been when I was about, let's say, 12 or 13, because I started watching movies in 2013. So I was 11 years old at that time, and I just used to go back on the IMDb page and just used to check the highest rated films. And I used to like war films back then. I still do. But Saving Private Ryan was always like one of them. Plus, it's Spielberg, so it's one of those names that you consistently hear growing up. Plus, he was involved in, like, you know, stuff that I used to love growing up. And so I watched this fairly young. I was a bit traumatized, and then I rewatched it recently. In I think 2020, around the same time I watched The Thin Red Line. Actually, I gave this a rewatch, and it's still absolutely perfect. This opening sequence is mad. It's just brutality, sheer brutality.
I've got a picture for you guys of the actor I'm talking about. He's in, like I said, he's in the landing craft in one of the opening shots. I'm going to show you real quick. And very talented actor, Mr. Mazda. Here you go. Do you recognize him?
I mean, not necessarily from that picture, but
so he hasn't got the tash or the goatee, and he's kind of looking down, and his face is really serious, really mean.
Oh yeah. I have the movie pulled up. I'm looking through. I found his face. Yeah.
And
5 minutes 25 seconds in the movie. You see.
There you go, and you kind of think, oh, this guy's going to be a major character because he's really got a prominent face. Richard always looks great on screen.
Yeah, that picture, he looked like if Nosferatu worked out.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was about to say he looks like Nosferatu.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that opening is amazing. Some people, I mean, it's almost like the film blew its wad too early, and it couldn't supersede that opening 20 minutes. And I get why people said that. And I remember I had a friend who always said, oh yeah, the first 20 minutes are great, the last 20 minutes is like watching an episode of the A-Team. And I'm like, well, I don't remember anyone getting a bayonet stuck into their rib cage in the A-Team, so maybe you watched a different version of the A-Team to me. But I still think the ending and the final action sequence is very, very gripping and very good as well. It's just a different kind of action sequence.
Well, and and without a cause, going after anyone for saying that, I'm like, okay, guys, I get it's a movie, but a lot of this stuff really happened. Do you want them to go? Do you want there to have been a lot of different times like D-Day and have the idea of the same guys going through it over and over again? I would hope not.
Yeah. I mean, no, indeed. But all the stuff that they do, creating the sticky bombs with the socks, all of those little kind of inventive things that they do, all of that stuff soldiers really did. Those are all documented things, and I think Spielberg probably heard about one too many of them and just chucked them all in the final sequence. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I mean, like
I think the rest of the movie is excellent. Personally, I love the rest of the movie.
From a filmmaking perspective and from a writing standpoint, the end of the movie is great because you actually know who these characters are now. You've seen them go through things, and you just want them to survive, so you're there. As opposed to this opening sequence where it's essentially, I would say, shock value a bit, because it's only a while into the sequence where you start to understand who the characters are. You're starting to piece it together on first viewing, of course. Then when you watch it the second time, you know the faces who are gonna, make it out of there and stuff. But at the end of the movie, you don't know who's going to survive. You think it's Tom Hanks because of,
that's a very clever setup, isn't it?
Well, and they kind of are. It's like I think part of what they're doing with that first 20 minutes, as far as these characters are concerned, is they're showing it's like, okay, these guys survived that.
Yeah.
And it almost could, if you're in your movie watch, if you're watching just from a movie watcher's perspective, you're like, okay, so these guys are invincible. And then just one by one, they start to fall. And it's like, no, that's not how it was in war. You could have survived something as harrowing and as, remembered as D-Day. It doesn't mean you're going to survive the next day.
No, indeed. There's a number of really great cameos in the film. Nerdly UK's just mentioned, love the Sam Malone cameo. I'm trying to remember which part did he play.
Ted Danson. Ted Danson. He shows up. Later. He's calling him Sam Malone from Cheers.
Oh, okay, right. Well, I know about Ted Danson. I don't watch Cheers, but I know. Yeah, Ted Danson's really good in it, actually.
Yeah.
And he's sort of slagging off Monty. That guy's overrated, and it was quite funny because, the general opinion of Monty he was good for morale, but a great general. I don't think he was. That's my personal opinion. I may lose some subs for saying that, but that stuff's all really good. You've also got a number of people that have become really big later in their careers. For example, the lad who they call Ryan down, and it's the wrong Ryan, and they tell him one of his brothers have died. And then his brother is at school. That guy has got his own TV show. I forget the name of it.
Firefly Castle.
Right. Yeah, he's been in all of those. Yeah,
he's kind of a huge fan favorite amongst. Yeah, he's a big fan favorite. A lot of people have wanted him for various. A lot of people wanted him as Nathan Drake for the Uncharted movies, because he actually did do a really great Uncharted short. Where he was fantastic.
He would have been good in that as that character, actually.
Oh, he would have been perfect. When that game first came out, everyone was like, gosh, Nathan Fillion could be this guy in a movie. No problem.
He looked exactly like him,
Looked a lot like him, yeah.
Well, with all the CGI that they had in that movie, they could have just made whoever it was look like. Anyway.
Now he's known for being like James Gunn's best friend. So he's basically in everything James Gunn makes. Or he always has been. He was good
mate to have.
Slither. He was in Slither. Yeah.
One of the other actors I want to point out is in this shot. I don't know if you guys have seen that TV show called The Unit.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
It's kind of a military show about a group of special forces. The geezer with the beard who was in charge of defending the town from the 101st there.
Okay.
Matt Damon's CO in the final section. That actor is one of the main commanders in the TV show The Unit. So he's another actor that's got a relatively small part in this, but has gone on to do bigger and greater things. And then you've also got the actor who they meet, who was the glider pilot,
the deaf guy.
No, he's the one that's. Oh, I can't remember if he's. No, not the one who's deaf. He's funny. No, the guy who's in the glider when they're sifting through all the dog tags, and he's saying about how he had a general on board, so they decided to put a bullet plate.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No one told me. He's one of the main guys in Alien 4.
He was in 7. He had a brief part in that.
I call him the American Danny Webb. We'll get his name up in a minute because him and Danny look so similar. Amazing production design.
By the way, that character who comes in who's deaf, he's one of the football players in Remember the Titans. He's the main one, actually. He's the one who actually gets paralyzed during that movie.
Yeah. That's Ryan. He's in Sons of Anarchy as well. Ryan Hurst.
Yeah.
Ryan Hurst.
Yeah.
So that's Ryan Hurst. Giovanni Ribisi probably gives, in my view, one of the best acting scenes of his career. He's great in The Offer as well, but the scene where he's dying, oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's trying to get them to fix it. Can you see it? Where's it? And then that gets that point. Tell us how to fix you, and he knows that the only thing that they can do is make him comfortable. And then that's kind of, for me, that's at the heart of the movie, is that moral question of, they could have just gone round and avoided that machine gun nest, and his character wouldn't have died, at least at that point, and got on with the mission. So here's a question for you both before we move on. Were they right to go and attack that position, or should they just have carried on with the mission, because attacking that was foobar, to quote Uninspired Review? What your thoughts?
I don't know, because I feel like even if they didn't do that, he'd probably die, or like he'd eventually find death somewhere else. That's why I think the movie always, like, as we said before, they survived Omaha Beach, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna survive the next day. So I think that's what the movie tries to tell you continuously, with having them drop like flies one by one, is that even if they had gone the other way around, who says that there isn't a lone soldier that was just roaming or something like that would have shot them in the back,
So you think they were right to do it?
Yeah, I'd say that they were right.
Okay. Go on, Pumpkin. Give us it.
Yes, I do think they were right. I think it's sad. Obviously, as sad as it is that he died, and yes, he probably wouldn't have died there if they go around, of course. But if you remember the reason why Hank said they needed to do it, he goes, look, these guys are dug in. If anyone else comes around, that's a lot of people that are going to die. It's like, and our objective is ultimately to win the war. And aside from that one casualty, they didn't lose anyone else, and they did take that thing out. So they very likely saved other soldiers doing that. So it's obviously we take it harder as an audience because we are seeing this individual that we've grown to know and care about as an audience. It hurts us to watch him die. But when you consider the reasoning Hanks gave, it's like, ultimately he's right. It's like, and obviously it takes a toll on him, but it's like, that's what war is. Unfortunately, that is what it is. It's so just gaining these inches, and if you gain inches by having bodies, and he probably saved more people than he lost.
His reasoning is sound in terms of, we can't leave this here to kill more, because there's already a couple of dead guys there, and the MG-42 is kind of sighted on that path. That radar station was also, that location was in the UK, but that radar station wasn't at Hatfield. It was somewhere else a bit further away. Now this shot here, with the world's chunkiest paratrooper played by Paul Giamatti. He's probably in the best shape of his life when he did this film, I reckon. But he has a lot of fun with this role, because you remember when like the wall collapses and suddenly there's all the Germans and everybody gets shot.
Oh,
he's kind of, and he sat on the wall, and he was the one that, and then he, when they go, one okay, and he's like, he puts his thumb up and goes, hey, okay, for fuck's sake, on this place you can see he's about to have a heart attack.
Yeah, he had sat down because he had like a rock or something in his boot.
Yeah, he had a rock in his
boot. He leaned back to pull it off, and I think he hit like a board, and it just knocked that wall out. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh crap, they're everywhere.
Matthew Holmes is in the house. I'm just going to bring him in. Nice. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
Dude, you're running a little bit late today.
I thought I was actually early.
Oh. Yeah, sorry, man. I know sometimes that's true that we have started other streams later. So I probably should have just double checked the time with you yesterday, shouldn't I? I did drop you a message yesterday, but you were out and about, I think.
Yeah, no, I got the stream link, but I didn't get the time. So I thought it was 8 o'clock my time, and it's 7:30 my time here.
Sorry, man. Well, I'll come back to you, Matt, at the end, because we've already done Thin Red Line.
Yep.
We're on Saving Private Ryan at the minute, but I want to hear your thoughts on Thin Red Line at the end. So
yeah, no worries. Keep talking about Private Ryan.
I'll let the Frenchman and the Pumpkin go. We can jump back on that at the end. Just talking about, well, we're kind of working our way through the cast and the various themes and stuff. We were talking about whether Tom Hanks's character was right to attack the radar station, which resulted in the death of Giovanna Ribisi. And by the way, Matt, now that you're here, I'll come on camera. I didn't want to be the only person on camera, but I'll now you're here,
okay.
I'll come on camera.
Well, I'll go on camera as well.
Yeah, there we go. Tilt your camera down a little bit, mate, as well if you can. I'm seeing more of your DVDs than I am of your face.
I don't know what's going on my camera today. Hey, there we go. That's better.
That's a little bit better. As you can see, Matt's got a big Blu-ray collection behind him there.
Nice.
So Matt, do you think Hanks's character was right to attack the radar station? Or should they have gone round?
No, I think it was. I think that was the one point where he really didn't do the right thing, personally.
Controversy. Excellent.
So yeah, no, he did. I don't think he should have, because I think his men were right in warning him, like, this is not our mission. This is not, So yeah, but I thought it gave the character layers, which is great. Because I thought Hanks was acting a bit irrationally in that moment as well. He seemed a little bit. He was more of an asshole than he ever was before in that scene. Maybe
it's good that his character wasn't perfect.
No, I think it adds much needed color to the character. No, I mean, I wouldn't want to take it out of the film, but do I agree with him as what a character did? No, they should have gone around. Well, or maybe done it a bit more stealthily.
Uninspired and Gourd King were all up for just like steaming into the Valley of Death and getting all their men killed. They were totally with Hanks on this decision. So
there you go.
Tom Sizemore, may he rest in peace. When I see pictures of him, it's hard to believe he's gone.
I know.
Yeah, a bit of a troubled man, and he troubled others as well, which is another sort of sad reality to Tom Sizemore, and a shame because he really was a terrific actor, and definitely in one of the best war films ever made, and in also one of the best crime thrillers ever made.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you guys know, but where the town was built, Ramel, the fictional town, that is exactly the same location where the massive town set was built for Band of Brothers.
It doesn't surprise
Band of Brothers also predominantly shot at Hatfield. It did also shoot in Switzerland and a couple of other places around the UK. But they predominantly.
What the heck did they shoot in Switzerland?
They shot the Austria scenes in Switzerland.
Oh, hang on, Band of Brothers, right?
Band of Brothers, yeah.
I thought you were talking about Private Ryan. I thought Private Ryan doesn't have.
No, I was saying that the majority of Band of Brothers was shot at Hatfield,
right?
Which is the same place where all of the stuff that wasn't on the beach was shot, apart from the radar station, which was a different location.
Oh man, Upham and Caparzo.
Yeah. I really rate this actor, Jeremy Davis.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a very underrated actor.
Yeah, he seems to have really dropped off the map.
Yeah, because he did that
film
with Christian Bale. The Rescue Dawn, wasn't he in that?
Yeah, he was great in that.
Sorry, Gourd King, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I haven't seen Rescue Dawn. I'm the only actor other than Christian Bale I know, and that is Steven Zahn, whose house I've been to, by the way.
Yeah, you've been to Zahn's house.
Yeah, he's my sister-in-law used to house sit for him. Yeah. So
right. He's a terrific actor in Rescue Dawn. I think it's a totally dramatic role for him. He's not being funny, and it's brilliant.
I got to watch his Oscar screener copy of Hacksaw Ridge while it was still in theaters. That was kind of cool.
Oh man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet him?
Unfortunately, no. I he was at my brother and sister-in-law's wedding, but
right.
He kept himself pretty low key, and I was in the wedding, so I never had a chance to go up to him. But from what I know of him, he seems like a pretty good guy, and he is a fantastic actor.
Did you present wedding rings in a hollowed out pumpkin?
If they'd have only let me.
Damn.
So Jeremy Davis, like his last movie that I can see is The Black Phone. You know, the one with Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fairly recent.
Yeah. So, but he's not. I guess he's not headlining films or anything. He's just. I guess he's a character actor that sort of floats in and out of.
I mean, he's an exceptionally gifted character actor, and I'm sure he's probably not one of the actors that's earning $26,000 a year.
He did exceptional voice work for God of War in 2018.
That's right.
I mean, truly exceptional work for that. I mean, it's. I mean, I tend to speak highly of good voice acting because it's not as I've always kind of railed against the trend of casting big actors in every single voice role. It kind of annoys me because there's genuinely talented ones, but he lent his voice to God of War as the main villain, and he's spectacular in it. He was also in a couple episodes of Hannibal, and I think he won either a Golden Globe or an Emmy for Justified as one of the villains in that. He's fantastic in Justified.
Wow, there you go.
There's Dale Dye with the cast. Now, one of my friends was in Band of Brothers. He played the guy who blows up the tank when it's coming over. He fires the bazooka at the tank when it's coming up over the hill in episode 3. So he had to do the training with Dale Dye, the combat training and all that, like these guys had to do. And during parade, he dropped his rifle, and Dye just like chewed him out in front of the entire cast. And McGrath, that was his character name. You fucking idiot, McGrath, and all this. And he was staying with me when he was filming Band of Brothers because he didn't like staying in hotels. He's like, "Oh, can I, come and crash on your floor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if you want." And he'd come back like, "Oh, Lance, man, I blew up a tank today," And I've been sitting there thinking, "Oh my god, why am I not on this movie?" But this is the team that did the training for these guys, and you probably know the story. Is that they all rebelled and they didn't want to do it. And Tom Hanks was actually Tom Hanks and Tom Sizemore said to the much younger cast, "Look, if you can't stay out under the rain for one night when we're portraying people that landed on a beach in Normandy under machine gun fire and most of them were under the age of 21, then you shouldn't be playing these parts in this film." And he kind of. And they were, "Oh, yeah, okay. All right, Tom, you've got more credits on IMDb than me." So yeah.
Bloody actors, 2 Oscars, like, you see these?
Yeah.
If someone said you can be in a Steven Spielberg war film, but you got to camp out for a week, but you can get to be in a Spielberg film, mate, I'd say, well, why not make it 2 weeks? I'll camp outside for 2 weeks to be in a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, but Matt, you do that sort of thing for fun. I've seen your Facebook page. So, I mean, yeah, I agree, and I did say to the actors that we got together who, when we were prepping Paratrooper, and I said to them, "You better be healthy when you arrive on set because you're gonna be in for the ride of your life doing this film." And even when we just did the promo shoot like that, we worked them pretty hard, and they were doing training and maneuvers in between takes as well with our ex Special Forces guy. So we didn't have the luxury of sending them out for a week. We just, as soon as they were in their kit, we were like, "Go and see that guy. He's going to tell you what to do." And while we were setting up the cameras, they were running up and down the street doing something called a pepper pot maneuver and this kind of thing. And David Wayman, who was one of my soldiers, he took it really seriously, and they were good. They looked good.
It's always great to have actors that can actually like do stuff. It's not just Hollywood bullshit where it's actually people like that's why The Terminal List, that TV show received a lot of praise because they actually trained a lot to be able to do what, like, to make it look very realistic.
Yeah. And I think you notice the difference in modern movies where they've trained actors to be either SWAT or soldiers or whatever, compared to older films.
Absolutely. I watched a movie called The Lair the other night with an actress called Charlotte Kirk, and she's supposed to be a British pilot using weapons.
I've seen that.
Oh my God. It was so unconvincing, and you could tell she was more concerned about how her hair looked in every shot, you know.
Oh yeah, the one with the bunker and the biological. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, a film of Neil, and I like Neil Marshall both as a person and as a director, but he did a few films with her, and they are not good movies. David Macy said all the principal actors except for Matt Damon did several days of grueling army training, as we know. Damon was spared this so that the other actors would resent him and would convey the feeling in their performances. Yeah, he didn't have to do what they did. He did do some stuff. He did learn to use a weapon and all that kind of thing. But he didn't have to do.
He didn't do bivouac for a week. Yeah.
No. So, and I think that was quite good. And God, he's so young in this movie. That's Tom Hanks saying "covering fire," which I used to say.
They resented him so much they dropped him off in Mars like 20 years later.
Yeah, by the way, Matt, earlier we looked at the locations both in Australia where they shot most of the Thin Red Line.
Oh, yes. Yeah, up in Queensland, yeah.
Brampton Beach. Have you ever been up there?
I've been up in that area before to where in the what's the Daintree rainforest area and things like that.
Yeah, that's it.
I haven't been to the specific locations, but I have been up there. It's very, very tropical. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where they shot Band of Brothers Pacific as well.
Yeah, they did also shoot a lot of Band of Brothers Pacific in Melbourne as well. In studios here in Melbourne, and the streets of Melbourne as well for that time period. So,
mate, you should have directed that episode, but you know,
I was too wet behind the ears back then, mate. They wouldn't have let me near it.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I only have to be with Matt for about 5 minutes, and my accent goes all Australian. So, this is the film that introduced me to Barry Pepper, and God, what an introduction!
Yeah.
So good in this.
He was terrific, and it looked like he was going to have a really interesting career, and then Battlefield Earth happened.
Yeah. There's a few actors whose careers did not recover too well from Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth happened. That's all you need to say when you ask about that movie's legacy. It happened.
Yeah. I remember seeing there were a few people at my school that was a number one bestseller when it came out, and it was this big, huge, chunky novel. It was huge, and I remember seeing the cover, and it kind of had this cool guy with these two guns and ships and shit all flying around. And I thought, man, I've got to read that book at some point. I've got to read that book. And I just never got around to it. Now kind of the film's sort of tarnished it. I don't want to pick it up now.
And the fact that it's written by Hubbard, it's like, how good can it be? Written by a narcissistic megalomaniac.
I mean, for me, Barry Pepper, when I see his face, only two movies really, really come to mind apart from Saving Private Ryan. The first one is The Lone Ranger, the 2013 one.
Yes.
He played the brother, I think, that gets his heart eaten out, and then he plays the dad in. Well, Stupenzo said it. It's the Killer Crocodile movie by Eli Roth. It's called Crawl.
That's a good film. That
it is. Yeah, he plays the dad. So that's the number one thing I remember from Barry Pepper.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen him in a lot of other stuff, but I mean, when you try, I think when he was in Battlefield Earth, they were trying to see, can this guy be, a leading man? And it almost is like once they find out you're not, they hold it against you. In everything. I mean, granted, he had a few other roles lined up in good movies just after that. But yeah, then he kind of fell off until, I guess, his best movie that he was in after that was probably, he did Flags of Our Fathers in, I think, 2006, and then he got to do True Grit, which he's really good in True Grit.
Oh, yeah.
He's really good in that.
He really is. He's a character actor, isn't he? He's not the leading man.
Yeah. Now, I've kept this still up for a reason, because the SS soldier on the left in this photograph is actor Eric Redman. And Eric Redman and I also did a play together that I directed him in called Signing On, about a man who holds up a load of people hostage in a benefit office. Here he is here. You'll also remember that he was in U571. He's the guy who he's the German soldier that comes out on the boat to the submarine, you know, when they're doing the kind of resupply blag, but this is in the daytime, and then the game's up and they kind of realize they're Americans, and he shouts back to the ship. He had some funny stories to tell me about that movie, but I'll save that for our U571 stream. But he's a really talented actor and a really nice man, and I've always stayed in touch with him ever since we did the play. So
he was great in the movie.
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, he just plays an SS soldier in it, but Steamboat Willie, who played the guy who Hanks nearly execute, and then he comes back.
Upham's biggest enemy, basically, at the end.
That actor is a guy called Jorg Stadler. So here's another funny story. I was auditioning for a play called the Victoria Climbié Inquiry, and it was a true story, and all the roles were British, essentially. And Jorg Stadler turned up at the audition, and he was so good, but he couldn't drop his accent, and he was really menacing. And I was like, I'd love to cast him in this, but what role do I put him in? It was like, you were in Saving Private Ryan, and he's like, yeah. So there's Hanks with by the way, if you want to listen to an interesting Hanks Rita Wilson story, check out my Tim Thomason interview. Didn't know that was going to drop in the middle of the interview, but very interesting.
Like my favorite cameo that I wasn't expecting in Saving Private Ryan was by I don't know if you guys would recognize him by name, but Max Martini.
Yeah, that's the guy who's in the unit. Who I mentioned earlier, who's in command of the forces in the town that Matt Damon's character is under. I did bring up a picture of him earlier. I'll try and get another one. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I just like him because I feel like he's a pretty underutilized actor, but he appears as side characters in a lot of movies, even recently. You know, like what I remember him in a lot is 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. That's a great
movie. I bought that for Matt as a birthday present. Funny.
Yeah, that was.
I love that movie. I adore that movie. I can watch it so many times.
Surprisingly good considering who directed it.
Yeah,
he's surprisingly so restrained. It's like, mate, you did it. You can do this. You can do this thing called movie.
Looking up at the cast list of Saving Private Ryan, Andrew Scott is also one of the soldiers on the beach. He played Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock one.
Yeah.
And Andrew just a soldier on a beach, probably died quickly for all we know. But
he was also one of the baddies in one of Craig's Bond films.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was. Yep.
So he was also in it, and then of course we've got our man from
Breaking Bad
at the beginning, doing the whole Death Notice thing. Yeah. There's our guy from Ryan Hurst from Sons of Anarchy.
This is actually my favorite scene of the movie when they meet him, because I feel like it's one of the rare scenes in the movie where you have this optimism that just arises for the viewer. You're just like, oh man, this is nice, for a moment. And it's a fun scene too, you just have him, he's basically half deaf, screaming everything, and it's just so nice. And then after that, you're just back in hell with them in the war.
Yeah.
Another cameo, by the way, I might mess up his name. Dennis Farina.
Farina.
Farina. He's if anyone in the chat, if you don't know, he's in Get Shorty, Snatch, Out of Sight, Manhunter.
He's also in Midnight Run.
Yeah, he's a really good actor. He has that brief role as Hanks's commanding officer. Yeah,
it's the beach invasion scene. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
So it's almost with these two movies, it's like Private Ryan is filled with people who would later become huge. And Thin Red Line was filled with everyone who was huge at that time.
Yeah.
They had some massive names on Thin Red Line, and yet I don't know. It's almost like a lot of these people in Private Ryan became very large afterwards, like Matt Damon and so on. Has anyone found out what the heck's happening with Edward Burns nowadays? Because he was, higher credited than Matt Damon, and he was like a filmmaker as well.
He'd just come off of the Brothers McMullen.
Yeah,
he
looked like he was headed
that
for
was like a runaway hit at the festival, the What's It Festival, the Robert Redford one.
Yeah, Sundance. Yeah,
the hit at Sundance. And then he did about 2 other movies, neither of which I thought kind of had the same level of charm. He did some other films.
I know he was given a big chance in the movie Confidence with Dustin Hoffman. I know they gave him that had a pretty good cast. It's not a well-remembered movie. I didn't see it personally. I just remember he was in it with a really good cast, and he was the main character in it. I think he had another one I want to say with Pacino with 15 Minutes. I think.
That should have been a lot better than it was.
Yeah, I think that was like the movie. I think if you look at his acting credits, 15 Minutes was the movie he did after Private Ryan. It was 3 years later that it released. So that might have had something to do with it, because it seems like either he took a break or just whatever he did next
apparently he's still acting, but his most recent work, most of them are TV shows.
Amazing Stories.
Right now on IMDb it says Bridge and Tunnel. It's a TV series, and
he directed 12 episodes of that.
Yeah,
and so he's still directing, but he just hasn't. Yeah, I guess it sort of seemed like he was headed for a Ben Affleck kind of career, and then he just sort of petered out.
Yep.
Well, he didn't sleep with J-Lo.
It's like you think of it's like, how did the Ben Affleck, who actually is a good actor, not make it? Oh wait, he wasn't actually friends with Matt Damon. He just saved him.
Yeah, because Burns is a good actor. I like him. I think he's good.
Yeah, I like him. He has that face of a 1940s detective, that type of neo-noir style.
Yeah,
there he is.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a high-pitched kind of interesting voice, but he's a great. He certainly fits that. He fits the character in this. That is, I still to this day don't watch that scene. I fast forward it every fucking time.
I watch it, but it's tough to watch.
And
frustrating.
I got a German friend of mine to translate what the German's saying, and he's saying, "Don't resist, just let it happen. It will be over quick."
Man,
shit, it's so horrible.
Upham annoys the hell out of me because he just lets this happen. I understand like how his character is doing, but to compare this to another movie that I think did it better, is Fury from 2014. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like it did this thing better than Saving Private Ryan did, because Saving Private Ryan, you're basically just mad at Upham. You're like, what the fuck, man? Why?
Yeah, and
I think you're supposed
to. He loses his bottle basically, and then the guy sees the state of him and doesn't even bother with him.
Yeah, he just realizes
which I kind of like that bit. That's the bit that makes that scene work. If the guy had come down and killed him, I don't think it would have worked as well.
But he still
looked at him like, you're not even worth killing. You're not a threat.
Like if I remember correctly, he let the other people go, right? Because they were a group of 5.
He let all the other Germans go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Doesn't that beat the point in the end? Because he had let this one person go, and it came back to haunt him. So why would he leave the 5 different people? I think the scene would have worked well if it was just the German, that one guy.
I don't know. Did he let him go, or I don't.
Yeah, he just bypasses Upham, and then that German goes back out and rejoins the conflict, and we don't actually see what happens to him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that this shot here is the continuity gaffe in the movie. So when you see this shot, one of their group has already died, but in this shot, the entire team are present if you count the numbers.
Oh,
it's a ghost.
So
the editor just hoped no one noticed.
Vin Diesel's one last shot with family.
Stupenzo has made an interesting comment here. It says, my big gripe about Saving Private Ryan is the Germans are portrayed as faceless or evil. I don't agree with that. because you get to meet Steamboat Willie, who I feel you see the person he was. He becomes the person he was before the war for a brief moment.
Yeah, he's not evil. He's just a terrified man. Like I wouldn't agree with that. I would agree with his second comment though. But when they say the Germans die quickly and don't suffer, I find that the Germans tend to one shot, boom, and they're down.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the Americans get shot and they sort of bleed out and last another 45 seconds to a minute before dying. And
I feel the Germans that get burned in the pillbox and then fall out the opening, and then they say don't shoot them, let them burn, would probably disagree with that was not a prolonged and painful death for them. And then you do have those guys that come out and they're trying to surrender. And that, by the way,
have you ever looked up the translation of what they said? Because I think they're saying we're Czech. They basically are saying that they're forced into service. They're not Nazis.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, they're not actually Germans at all.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that were manning the bunkers were Czechs or Poles, and there was even they picked up a couple of Chinamen or people from Korea. And the story of those two guys is told in another movie, by the way. That Korean War movie that follows them. I forget. Somebody in chat will know the name of it, but that's also a true story that they picked up people that had been. There were Russians as well that have been, conscripts that captured prisoners from the Russian front and things like that. Upham didn't kill that German. The German who kills Mellish is not Steamboat Willie. It's a different German. It's not the same guy. So, and because that German is.
Are you sure? I always thought that the man he let go at the radio tower ends up being the same.
That is the same guy.
Steamboat Willie shoots Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
but he's not the German who kills Mellish with the
band. Those are two separate ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because because he's saying here, Upham killed the German in the end, didn't he? I'm sure he did.
Yeah, they're two different
Germans. The same German. He kills Steamboat Willie, but he doesn't kill the German who
stabbed Mellish.
Yeah, the one who stabbed. He's quite a bit bigger.
Yeah.
He's got hairier too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's big and hairy, hardened SS man. You can tell by how big and hairy he is. So that's a crucial piece of information.
You almost kind of get the sense that the one Upham does kill is kind of a lot like him, just on the other side.
Yeah.
A little more hardened because he's a little bit more able to kill, but put in similar situation, he was scared and trying to convince them to let him live. But then, like they had warned, he got put right back into service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this is the moment when he kills Jörg Stadler, Steamboat Willie, because there he is. It's pretty interesting because if you look at this shot, Jeremy's popped up, but this guy behind him's got his rifle leveled right at him. He could have just shot him straight away.
Yeah.
I did feel that scene was a little bit naff. I think
one guy against they gave up their weapons pretty easily.
I think what should have happened is he should have just leveled his weapon at Steamboat Willie and picked him off.
I mean, the one justification you could make is that the jets had just flown overhead and bombed everything.
Yeah.
So they could have said, what's the point? We might get killed if we take this guy out. He might have just been deciding we need to surrender because we've lost this one.
Yeah, and also seconds later you see loads of other reinforcements and tanks and whatnot arrive.
Yeah, but they managed to walk away before all those reinforcements comes, because the way the scene is framed, the reinforcements come from behind them. So if they continue running, they might be able to outrun all of this.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because
they're on the other side. He's on the German side of the river, isn't he?
He is. Mm-hmm. He is.
Yeah.
Great shot of the beach here. I did always like the inclusion of lots of dead fish.
Realistically, it does work. I'll tell you, the scene that follows this one directly, when I saw this in theaters with all the veterans around, because the scene after this is where you see all the women writing letters to the families.
Yeah.
That scene hit me very different in amongst that group of people than it ever had before, because it's like you're getting just this feeling of, wow, this is what a lot of them kind of sign up for. It's like if they die, it's just that'll be conveyed via letter and you're just thousands of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah, it's a good, and the scene with the mother finding out
Mm-hmm.
is a very moving moment. It is very wholesome America farm. It's got the windmill, you know. But it works. This is the scene where one of the
it does have a glaring continuity error though.
Oh yeah, go for it.
In that scene where she goes to the front door,
yeah,
and she there is quite on the right hand side of frame, there is quite distinctly a picture of the four brothers all together wearing army helmets, all you know, in uniform, sort of arms around each other in that photograph. But then when Private Ryan is telling Tom Hanks at the end the story about all his brothers, he said that was the last time the four of us were together. And they all went off to basic.
Yeah.
And we never saw each other again as four brothers. And it's like, well, there's a picture of all four of you in your mother's bedroom. Or in the mother's hallway. So
maybe he means that was I mean, you could argue that's the last time we were all together before we joined the army, and they did their training together, but then got shipped out to separate units.
Yeah, but
it's likely a result of the fact that I'm pretty sure that monologue by Damon is improvised, so that's probably what causes the continuity error.
Yeah, of course, because that's very could be very likely.
I mean, I think you probably could justify it sort of mentally, but you would be kind of writing the movie for him. But yeah, it's I think it's just the result of the monologue just causing that really being improvised.
Yeah.
This is the sequence where the anti-aircraft gun blows away a load of the guys on the tank. And
I thought that was the sticky bomb part where the
the sticky bomb that goes off early, sorry. And you can actually see there's a hand. An arm and a hand here flying through the air in this still. I went on a date with a girl one time who actually was in charge of the prop dummies on the set at Hatfield, and she also did basic makeup for a lot of the. She was in charge of doing the Germans, and I was like, yeah, sure. And she was like, oh no, I'll show you. And she had all these photographs of taken on set, including one of her with Steven Spielberg, and pictures of all the Germans standing around and stuff. So I got to see all of that before I even met Alan Tomkins, which was it. It just goes to show you should always go on dates with random blondes. This was a great scene with Barry Pepper with a sniper rifle.
Yeah, it is good. But like, what do you guys think about the the mission in general, you know, saving Private Ryan? Do you think that it's a justified mission in your opinion?
That's a good question.
I would say probably not. Probably not. I mean, it's like I get because it's. I mean, granted, it's as far as I know, it's only loosely based on something that actually happened, but I'd have to look it up to be sure. But it's kind of almost a propaganda-like mission. It's one of those things that could raise, you know, sentimental feelings and whatnot. You almost get the sense that they would use the story of this mission as a way to sell war bonds or to get more recruits in.
Yeah.
I did find it a bit funny, like a little bit. There's a bit of logic gap with some of the soldiers on the mission, though. They're all going, what's the point in risking all of us lives to save one guy? And it's like, but guys, every day you're out there, you're in the same risk situation. If you're not going on this mission, they're just going to throw you into some other battle where you're in just as much danger to die. Yeah. So it really, in the service of this or in the service of something else, your lives are being risked.
Well, I think that's kind of what part of the point of the movie is, that this is kind of what they're learning. They look at the situation initially and are like, this doesn't make sense. And a part of their character arcs is finding meaning in a mission that they don't necessarily believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of it just doesn't. It's almost like they've got the attitude that if we weren't doing this, we would be safe. And it's like, well, no, you wouldn't be safe. You'd just be fighting Germans in some other town. True. So yeah, but I get it's an interesting question, and
because I don't know if they necessarily. I don't necessarily know if they're bothered by the fact that they're unsafe doing it. I think they're just looking at the calculus of it, and they're like, it's 9 of us and 1 of him. Yeah. The numbers just don't add up to them. But
I guess
as you get to the end of the movie, it's like, well, maybe this is, kind of where we can gain back some of our humanity. Maybe that's how we earn our way home.
I mean, but there is a sort of maybe they could explore this too. Like it's a sort of survivor's guilt on Ryan's part, which is because
I think that's a huge portion of it, especially given Hanks's last line to him, "Earn this." That's very much. That's not. I mean, that's directed at him and the audience. Is like, this is what was done for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I think the storytelling is doing there. It's saying, imagine you're this guy. You never see this guy fight. In fact, when you actually see the battle start, he really doesn't fight. You see him curled up, screaming, and just horrified. And I think that what Spielberg is doing there is trying to say, put yourself in this guy's shoes. This is them fighting for you, for your freedom, that kind of thing.
I mean, hence the massive family that he brings with him to the cemetery at the end. So a visual representation of what he's done with his life after the war.
And I have to say, on a personal note, the older Ryan looks and dresses just like my grandfather. So
wow,
that added a layer for me.
I just want to comment on this shot. So, two things. So number one, much as I love the art direction in that, this particular type of casemate bunker on the left, which would have housed a big piece of artillery, there were not any of this particular type of bunker on Omaha Beach. There were several of them on top of Pointe du Hoc, and there were bunkers that housed, anti-tank guns and things like that. But they also weren't, the ones that there were not facing directly out to sea like this one is. They were built into the sides of the drawers, which were the places where you could leave the beach, so that they would be built into the hillside at a 45-degree angle, sweeping down the beach. The idea being that the side of the bunker wasn't visible at all to naval gunfire and things like that. And of course, it had huge protection from the hill. And then your opening and where you would fire would be straight down the beach from the side. There were very few bunkers like the main one that we see. There are some like that, but they were very rarely facing directly forwards. They were nearly always at a 45-degree angle, so that it would be very difficult for a ship to get a shell directly into the port. The second thing about this scene is definitely a nod to a similar scene in The Longest Day, which actually takes place in Pointe du Hoc in front of one of these bunkers, where two Germans try to surrender, and they come out of a trench and go bitter. That's and right. This guy turns around and shoots him with a Thompson. Then he turns around to the camera and says, "I wonder what bitter means." And it means please, and it definitely is a nod to The Longest Day, which is a great sort of huge film. This is like D-Day on a microcosm, with all the bloods and gore to go with it. But if you want a huge historical epic that gives you D-Day as a whole from multiple perspectives, I mean, it was a violent film for its time, bearing in mind it was made in 1962. You wouldn't have got away with the guts and blood, but he wanted to make it. Daryl Zanuck produced it. He wanted it to feel like a newsreel, which is why, even though color was available, it was shot in black and white. So just a bit point of information there. This one now, this picture, this guy looks like his head is on fire. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Spoiler alert: Tom Hanks doesn't make it till the end of the movie. Saving Private Ryan for me is this is still a film that I'll watch at least once a year for sure. It's like on the Lord of the Rings list, I'm going to watch Lord of the Rings at least once a year. Saving Private Ryan is also on that list. A great shot of the beach here. And out of 10 on IMDb, Matt, I'm going to let you go first, and sort of your any other comments you want to make.
I would give Private Ryan a 8.5. Okay, 8.5 out of 10.
Where did you first see it? Because we didn't get to ask you that question.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it at the cinema, and right. I saw it 3 times at the cinema.
Yeah, me too.
The second time I saw it was absolutely jam packed. It was the second weekend of its opening, so it was absolutely packed because everyone had been just talking about it the week before. So, however, when I went to see it the second time, there was a woman in front of me who every time there was a violent thing, she would giggle and she'd go, "Oh!" So every head that got blown off, every limb that was cut off, every person that was horribly shot, she was giggling the whole time. And it was one of the most, and after 3 hours of that, I wanted to bop her on the head with my Coke. She was so annoying. But I realized it was a nervous laughter. It was someone who was shocked, and her dealing with it was to giggle. And that was just that lady's weird thing. But I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that's
kind of spoiled.
I remember you telling me that story actually.
So I'm going to go so I went and saw it again the following week. I saw it again. So I usually see movies that I absolutely adore 3 times. Yeah.
Did you see the cinema kind of jump up in unison when those bullets went underwater and hit those guys? Did you see everybody go like that? Because I did.
I didn't. I don't remember that.
You were probably too distracted by the woman with her strange laugh.
By the giggle. I'm sure she giggled at that bit as well. She just giggled at everything.
So, so you give it 8.5 out of 10. Uninspired reviewer. Final comments on this, and what would you give it out of 10?
For me, 8.5 too. Even though I know I put the Thin Red Line at 9. I just think that 0.5 comes from the personal attachment that I have to that film. So 8.5 is, I think, great for Saving Private Ryan. I mean, it is like a mainstream sort of war movie. And plus, I don't know if there are other big budget war movies like this that depict, that depict the violence so in such a visceral manner, So
have you seen Bridge Too Far?
Bridge Too Far? No.
Oh my God! I'm sorry, that's a requirement for being on this channel. I'm afraid I'm going to have to take you out immediately. Goodbye. Oh, well, we've lost an uninspired reviewer. That's such a shame. Just kidding, mate. But, dude, I mean, you've not seen A Bridge Too Far? Oh my God.
No.
Have you got a big screen at home, like a projector or anything?
I've got my TV.
Is it a big TV?
Yes, it is.
Good. There's a really good HD copy of Bridge Too Far on YouTube.
Ooh, don't worry. If I can find it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you've got to listen, man. You've got to come back and tell me what you think of that. But that's for me. That was the film that is the most realistic depiction of war before this. But it is a big ensemble. We're going to tell you the history of the whole operation, like The Longest Day. So it's exactly the same template as The Longest Day, but it's made in 1977, and it's an anti-war film about an operation that went tragically wrong. We did a stream about it. I think, Matt, you were on that, weren't you? Weren't you on that?
No, I missed that one.
But I did a big stream about it. I'm going to do a second one about more about the making of it. Although we did cover some of that, and it's a fantastic film, and what a cast!
Check it out. I'll probably download it like tonight or something.
Good King, you've seen Bridge Too Far, right?
I have.
Oh, thank God for that.
Really good. A friend of mine that I used to work with, he lent it to me, and it's a really, really good movie.
Yeah, there you go. So fantastic recommendation. So Good King, you were 8.5. Uninspired reviewer. What do you rate?
Other way around.
No, me. Yeah, sorry, 8.5.
You were 8.5. You're 8.5 years old. Sorry, Good King. What do you rate it out of 10?
I mean, if I was being like objective, I'd probably go something like 9.5. But just on a pure enjoyment level, which is what I do on IMDb, I do go 10 out of 10. It's my favorite war film. Like you, I watch it probably at least once a year. It is, it has imperfections, obviously, but it is emotionally highly effective in various ways. It's probably the most rewatchable war film, and it's not perfect, but it's one of my favorites that Spielberg has ever done. And
top of his game in this period.
Really was. Really
Jurassic Park and and Private Ryan, he was at his apex as a director.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he did. He did
Schindler's List right around that time.
He did Amistad right before this, actually.
Yeah,
yes,
and that's still a very good film.
Yeah, it is. So, I think Amistad is underrated. I think it's a good movie.
Well, no, a lot of people talk about it. It's true.
So, I'm with my fellow pumpkin friend. I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. It's probably one of only 2 war movies that I would rate 10 out of 10. This and Bridge Too Far. There's lots of reasons why. One was it's an amazing cinematic experience, and that's what film should do for me. Yeah. 2, it is the first realistic depiction of what it was like to land on a beach on D-Day. There's been 3 or 4 other movies that have covered that. None have done it quite like this, and it set a benchmark for how this kind of action should be directed. So that 3, the cast are all first rate. I love the music as well, and 4, it is also responsible for not only giving us Band of Brothers a few years later, but it also created a massive resurgence and interest in World War II as a topic, which resulted in a lot of other movies. Because of this film, we got things like Wind Talkers, unfortunately, not a good film.
Yeah, Fury, we got. It was like Gladiator opened up the Sword and Sandal epic. Private Ryan reopened the war epic because it was largely gone by this point.
Yeah,
we got Black Hawk Down straight afterwards as well.
Yeah, people weren't making World War II films or war films particularly. They just weren't very popular.
No, they really had kind of died out in the 70s, and really you had a few. You had Platoon and things like that, but they were Vietnam War films.
Yeah.
You didn't really get Second World War movies in the 80s and 90s until Private Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, even in the early 2000s, with the actual war that began, with the US and all of that stuff, like that's when the 2000s, from I think 2000 till about, let's say, 2000 and even 14, there were so many war movies in general.
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's I don't know that there's been another one that's. I'd put The Thin Red Line on par with this, and that's what makes these 2 films so great. They're both really good for very different reasons, but I don't know.
Hacksaw Ridge is one.
Hacksaw Ridge, I would. Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge is production design wise, definitely it's in the same league.
Yeah, a bit heavy-handed, I think. A bit of a heavy-handed film I found, and a bit overdone with the violence. I thought it was a bit almost started to border on a bit of campiness to me. That's how I felt about it. Anyway.
Yeah, but for me, it didn't grip me the same way as either of these 2 films.
It didn't feel as weighted or as important. There was something artificial about Hacksaw Ridge that just didn't that Thin Red Line. This film didn't have.
Sorry, go on.
I was about to ask, do you guys think that there's going to be a sort of resurgence in World War I movies now that, you've had, I think it was 1917, now with All Quiet on the Western Front too.
Yeah.
So maybe, because I do think that there aren't a lot of World War I movies.
It's a bit overlooked. Sometimes you'll get World War I scenes within a film set in that time, but you don't rarely get a whole movie set in World War One. I hope so, but then again, I think it's a different world now. Movies like Saving Private Ryan will never be the gigantic record-breaking hits that they were in the 90s. We just don't live in that world anymore. Like if All Quiet on the Western Front had come out in 1998, that film would have been a monstrous blockbuster.
Yes,
but because we've already seen these types of films for 20 years, even though it's just as good, it's not. It just lands on Netflix and no one really talks about it.
True.
It's just a shame that this is the world we live in now.
Talking of All Quiet on the Western Front, one of my friends went to the Namur Tank Museum, which is one of the biggest tank museums in the world, and they've actually got one of those French tanks there.
Wow.
that you see in All Quiet on the Western Front, and I'd never seen that design of
No, I'd never seen that before,
and I was wondering even if it was real.
Yeah, I was wondering. Oh, they haven't made that up, have they?
I was thinking that too, because they were so bizarre looking. But no, this is them, and there you go. There's a real one.
Wow.
So I thought
that was horrific. That was a truly horrifying movie in lots of ways. That Western Front movie.
But I mean, it was always designed to be, the ultimate kind of anti-war film. I mean, actually doing a stream about that and 1917 would be a good. That would be a good pair to have.
I mean, at least like it did keep in tune with what the original tried to do. You know, that's what I really do appreciate about the new version.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, did anyone find when Private Ryan came out, it was such a hit, and I loved it. I was like, mad about Private Ryan when it came out.
Yeah.
And but it started getting a lot of, when anything gets too big, it must be an Australian thing, but the tall poppy syndrome kicks in, and everyone wants to bring it down. And I heard so many people criticizing the movie, and they would say, "Oh, the only good thing about that is the opening. The rest of it's all shit." I
said the same thing before you came on.
Yeah, and the end is like a big long episode of combat, and you're like,
somebody said to me the end is like an episode of the A-Team, and I was like, that's bullshit.
It's like, are you kidding me? That's probably even more affecting than the opening, because you now know these characters, and now they're dying in horrific and horrible ways.
I made the point when that was first brought up, and I said, what would you prefer that? I was like, would you prefer that these characters go through a whole lot of other horrible stuff like D-Day again and again? I mean, I know it's a movie, but you're supposed to take this seriously. Like, because a lot of this actually did happen. It's like, granted, these characters are fictional, but the actual events happened.
Yeah.
And for the most part, and it's like, okay, the point is that guys could survive something as horrible and harrowing as D-Day. Doesn't mean you're going to survive the next day in something that's less memorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
this tendency to people to just come in and if something's really big, they'll attack the little imperfections of a film, which I think in Private Ryan there are little imperfections, but they're little. And when you look at the little imperfections of the things that they got wrong or didn't quite work compared to all the stuff that they did do right that did work, it's almost not even worth mentioning. So just shut the fuck up.
I think that attitude is part of why the Academy was silly enough to pick Shakespeare in Love over it for Best Picture. I mean, Shakespeare. I
forgot about that.
I mean, you could have picked Saving Private Ryan, Thin Red Line. Heck, The Truman Show didn't even get nominated, and that's a better movie. It's like you had several better movies, but they picked Shakespeare in Love, and I'm like, over Saving Private Ryan? Really? Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look back on Shakespeare in Love, it's a good, fun film, but you wouldn't look at it and go, this is an Oscar movie.
No.
No.
It's too frivolous. It's just
glorifies actors. That's why,
because it's got frilly pantaloons in it. It's up there. You know what I mean?
You nailed it. It glorifies actors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's why. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about the Academy. It's like they only like movies about Hollywood. And that's basically
it. They love
like,
them some them.
So guys, what do we think of David's question here? How do you like Saving Private Ryan compared to 1917? I've watched 1917 twice. I've watched Saving Private Ryan about 70 times. So that's my answer.
I do love 1917. I think it's a very different kind of movie. I think it's a very almost operatic kind of film. The way it plays out, I think it's excellent, but it hits very differently. It hits very differently. It's more, just it's not necessarily personal. It's not necessarily about what was sacrificed for what. It's really you're just following this, these characters trying to get this message across to save lives and everything. It's it's great. I love it, but it's just a different movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's immediately as classic as Private Ryan.
No.
And there's still something about 1917 that still feels a bit artificial. Like, I don't know, there's just something a bit clean about it's the trenches. I don't know, it doesn't quite land.
Yeah, when they get into that last trench network, it's sort of all on its own. And
it's a bit all white. And I don't know. There's something that doesn't quite work about it. But this doesn't quite work for me. But
Oh,
it's a good
somebody
film,
called
but I don't
Lord
think
King
it's
in
as
chat says pretty much the same thing. Yeah, so interesting. I just quick. I mean, funny enough, Leroy Peters. Good to see you again, Leroy. By the way, thanks for popping in. He's a great author. Has anyone seen Hacksaw Ridge? Well, yeah, good movie. And Seventh Day Adventist myself, it was hard to watch at times. Matt's already made a point from that. David Macy's giving it 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, yeah.
I'd like to know what other people who are watching. Still 8 of you here. I'd like to know what other people think. Leroy is giving it 10 out of 10. So Jacob has also not seen Bridge Too Far. That's a channel ban, Jacob, until you've seen the movie. Got to come back and give me a full report.
Jacob would love it. I think Jacob would love it. Given his given what he typically covers on his channel, I think he'd really love that movie.
Leroy's got upset with me because I said that Wind Talkers wasn't great.
Oh my god, I almost walked out of that film. Well, and then when I years later I went, you know what? Maybe I was too hard on it. I'm going to buy the Blu-ray and I'm going to watch it again with a fresh perspective. Maybe I just missed it, maybe I didn't get it. And I started it, and within 15 minutes, I threw the disc out and I put it in the bin. I hated that film.
Yeah, that was hard. That was hardcore. Yeah, David, I saw
an excellent idea. Excellent. Could have been a great movie. Could have been an excellent movie. Had the money, had the cast. It could have been great, but John Woo was the wrong director.
He was the wrong director.
It could have been great.
Yeah, the opening. I don't like the opening 5 minutes of that film.
Oh my god, no!
And there's a lot militarily that they did wrong in that movie. And the guys from Fighting on Film have done a really good video about that film where they've really taken it apart. Now, look, I'm. Everybody likes different stuff. So, Leroy, if you love it, that's all good, man. A lot of people love Nicolas Cage, and I do too. But that film just didn't work for me. But we all like different things. So
I haven't seen Wind Talkers personally, so I don't know if I love it or hate it. So I have.
I'm not gonna push you on that one, Gord King. It's not as required viewing as Bridge Too Far is.
I'd be curious to know what was it Leroy that saw it? Liked it. I'd be interested to know why he liked it. Like, what was it what is it about that we're not getting, or we're not, just curious to know what it is.
While I dash to the bathroom real quick, you guys, do you prefer do you have one that you like more than the other? Uninspired reviewer is currently muted, so he may well be dashing to the toilet too. So, Gord King, I'll go with you first, and then you, Matt, on that question. If you have a preference.
Are we discussing? You mean comparing Private Ryan to Thin Red Line?
Well, not comparing, but do you prefer one over the other, or if not,
okay.
Or if so, tell me why. Gord King first, then Matthew.
I mean, it'd probably be unfair for me to even to state it on a comparative level, just because I've only just seen Thin Red Line today. So yes, I would obviously say at this point I prefer Saving Private Ryan, but I absolutely loved the Thin Red Line. There's a lot about it I still haven't fully absorbed that I definitely want to look for again when I watch it. At the moment, I would say Saving Private Ryan. There's a lot of history there between me and that movie, whereas Thin Red Line, we've only just met.
Right, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I saw both at the cinema. After I saw Thin Red Line after Private Ryan, and I was hoping to get Private Ryan 2. I didn't get Private Ryan 2. Very different movies, completely different style, and I actually hated the Thin Red Line when I first saw it. And I did like its music. I thought the music was beautiful. I thought the cinematography was beautiful, but I hated the movie itself. It was only in years later that I revisited it, that I looked at the movie on its own terms and actually went, hang on, this is really good. It's just that I had bought an expectation of it. I wanted Private Ryan again, and I didn't get it. So
I said the same thing before you came on the stream, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's just that's but now I love it. I don't love it as much. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 rather than an 8.5 for Private Ryan. But I still think it's a fantastic movie and a beautiful movie, and yeah. But definitely Private Ryan is more. I think it's a far more accessible movie. Whereas Thin Red Line's a bit more arty and a bit more not as personal, so it's a bit harder to access. But if you get into the zone and you get into the movie, it's a great experience.
So you guys, you can see why me and Matt are friends, because I said exactly the same line. That do you think this is a more accessible movie? That was mine.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And I was hoping with Windtalkers that I would revisit it years later, having shunned it at this theatre, and then I'd see it in a whole new light. It didn't work on Windtalkers, I'm afraid. So,
uninspired reviewer, you know, between the two, got a preference or?
Oh yeah, for sure. For me, it's like the Thin Red Line. It's just because of the personal attachment I have to the film, and that's mostly it for me. Because it's even though I do really really enjoy Saving Private Ryan, I rewatch it more than the Thin Red Line. I do have a preference for the latter, just because of the way that it resonates with me. It resonates with me in the same way Back to the Future resonated with me to make me want to get into film, you know. So there are very rare films that make me have those type of emotions, and the Thin Red Line is one of them. So takes the cake for that reason.
Before I forget, I'm just going to remind everyone I'm actually doing a watch party stroke deep discussion, because, you know, it's going to be 3 hours long, so it'll definitely be both, on The Longest Day this Saturday. So if anybody wants to get in on that, let me know. I know Saturday/Sunday morning, Matt, for you generally isn't a good time, but
no, not really. But I might be able to. We'll see. I might be able to jump on for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'll be running it, and it'll be a long one. So if anyone wants to pop in, Uninspired, Gord King, you're both welcome, of course. Uninspired on the condition, of course, that you've seen Bridge Too Far at least twice by then. And obviously it helps if you've seen The Longest Day. Again, you can find The Longest Day at various places online, but it's definitely a movie well worth watching.
Longest Day was one of my favorites as a kid. It was I just loved that film. I was obsessed with it. And then Private Ryan came along, and then that became my new war favorite.
I mean, it's the film that introduced me to the history of D-Day, and made me want to go to all those locations, which I did later in life. And then also, you know, I've over the years, I've had an understanding of how they shot all the different scenes and where they shot them, and how some things actually doubled for other places down the road and stuff. And it's as a filmmaker, it's a film that I still really love and have a lot of respect for. And the scope and the scale of it is just
it's a phenomenal scope and scale. I really wish, though, that Longest Day was made in a period of time where they could do what they did with Private Ryan, where they could make it as realistic and as violent. Because with that spectacle, and they had given it they gave it the realistic treatment of Private Ryan, The Longest Day would just be possibly the greatest war film that would never be topped.
Well, Matt, we'll have to do a remake of it. You know, we can have 4 directors on it, like they had on the. They had a director for the French scenes, British one for the British, one for the German one for the Americans. So,
it is a phenomenal feat. Like, if you're watching it, it's like you're watching the war. Like, it's just so big, you can't believe it. But it just doesn't get the grit of Private Ryan down. It's a bit more cavalier with that stuff. So, but it's just the period of time it was made.
I may also be doing a stream about Hamburger Hill on RM's channel Positive Phantom tomorrow with Darth Waco. They're doing a watch party, and I know the director of Hamburger Hill, and I've talked to him extensively about the film. However, I may be going on a date tomorrow night. Date takes triumph over a watch party. So
I get that.
Yeah, we'll see. Leroy has answered Matt's question, so I just want to just give him his voice here. And he said he likes Windtalkers not because of Nicolas Cage, and I agree, it's not Nicolas Cage's finest hour, but because of the history of the Navajo soldiers who fought for America. Now, look, I agree with you on that. It's a great subject that deserved a voice. and goes on to say he's very pro-American Indian and has great respect for them. And again, I'm with you there. I think the subject is worthy. I just don't think the film was executed well. And again, that is just my opinion, but and Matt's opinion. But if you like it and it's ticking that box for you, great. It's not a film I wouldn't tell people not to watch. But Bridge Too Far first though. Uninspired, definitely.
Yep.
In the front of the queue. So I guess for me, it's got to be Saving Private Ryan, because I go on rewatch value, and even though Thin Red Line, I've owned it for the same amount of time that I've owned Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan was also, I think, was the first film I bought on Blu-ray, or it was one of the first. And I remember I said to my ex-wife, this is not the reason that she's my ex, let's sit down and watch Saving Private Ryan, because she hadn't seen it. And I had a really huge TV, and I had it all rigged up to speakers and stuff back then. And I just I knew what was coming, so I just thought, well, we'll turn it up to 99%. And so the first scene comes on in the cemetery. She goes, "It's a bit loud, isn't it? Have you got it on a bit loud?" I went, "Oh, there's a reason. You'll see when the next scene happens. It'll be very visceral." And when we got to the end of the beach invasion scene, she turned to me and went, "Jesus Christ, that was intense." So it was, and that wasn't in the cinema. That was at home. So Saving Private Ryan. But I think with me, every time I rewatch Thin Red Line, I find something new in it. Yeah. Whereas with Saving Private Ryan, I think I've stopped finding new things in it now, apart from actors I maybe did a stage play with once. There seems to be one of them cropping up every so often. But
it's a comfort movie,
Yeah. But it's also, Thin Red Line is not so much about. This is a movie. Private Ryan's about a bunch of soldiers in the war, and it's got a very clear story with a beginning, a middle, and end, and it's got that traditional structure, and it's very Thin Red Line's almost an exploration of emotions and what it means to be human. It's extremely I don't want to use the word cerebral, but it's a very poetic, artistic, sort of questioning nature.
It's a philosophical movie.
It's a philosophical movie disguised as a war film. It's not. Whereas Private Ryan is what it is. It's not hiding anything. It is what it is. And I think that's what I had to get past before I saw Thin Red Line for the great movie that it is I had to realize, okay, you're not watching a war film. You're watching a philosophical film. Okay, and now I enjoy it. And funnily enough, my wife doesn't like war movies, really. She just doesn't want to sit down and watch Private Ryan with me. She's just, war. But she really likes Thin Red Line because she is much more she loves more philosophy and things like that. So Same. She gets into Thin Red Line, but likes it a lot more.
Yep. I'm a very philosophical person. That's why I really appreciate the Thin Red Line too.
Yeah, of course you would, because it's.
I always ask myself existential questions all the time. It's something that it annoys my dad a lot, actually, because every time I start, speaking about stuff like this, he looks at me the same way Woody Harrelson looks at Matthew McConaughey in True Detective. He's just like, "Come on, man, just please stop it."
He's looking at you, going, "Are you really my son?" Yeah. Gettysburg getting a couple of shouts in the chat here as favorite war film. I saw it at the cinema. I really did enjoy it, and
if only the beard department had done a better job.
Yeah, it's got the highest number of fake beards and moustaches in a film ever, and is in the Guinness World Book of Records.
And not that I mind fake beards and moustaches, but you've just got to do them right. You just can't do them wrong.
No, man. Well, yeah. I get it. If you look at the pictures of from the war, they are of a particular style. The 1860s. People had very bizarre fashion, but we know humans too well. We know what beards look like and how they should look, and they're not meant to look like straight.
that's what you get from the $2 wig store when you go to a Halloween party.
Jacob Ironside has said, first time he saw Saving Private Ryan, my family of 6 were watching it, and my mum and sister didn't make it past the beach because they were taken out of the landing craft as soon as they hit the sand. So, yeah, I hear you, man.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't make it.
I mean, imagine if you'd gone on a first date movie for that. That would have been unfortunate. Just a word about the tanks on Saving Private Ryan. Of course, these are converted T-34s. The Russian mainstay tank of it's a T-34 body with a Tiger turret rebuilt on the top. These tanks were built by Stephen Lammonby, who's a friend of mine, and was going to do the tanks for Paratrooper and also Pegasus Bridge, the 2 World War II projects that I've forever been trying to get made. And Lammonby was driving one of the 2 Tigers. That's not him in that turret, so that's probably an actor or a living history guy. But he did build. He also built the other vehicles that you see. The one that got the Molotov cocktail thrown in the top of it from the church tower, and the guys kind of roll out the back on fire. He built that as well, and a couple of other vehicles, and they've all been sold off to American collectors now.
Wow!
So they're all.
That's the thing. You got to
King's Garden.
You've got to buy. Yeah, you can't just grab this shit. It's so old, and a lot of it was, of course, destroyed in the war and then scrapped. But it is great that we have. I mean, what's so cool about these movies is they are a window into the past, and even though it's artificial, even though it's recreated, it does give you that sense of you can actually look back into World War II and see it in full color.
Did you guys hear about the German man who had a World War II tank in his basement that was uncovered in 2021? Yeah, it was
oh wow.
An old German man, like a pensioner. He kept a 40-ton tank in his basement, and he basically had an entire World War II arsenal just.
I've got to look this up on Google and see if
I don't know if I'm impressed with the hiding or impressed with the size of his basement.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
is there a metaphor in that comment, Gord King?
He was 84 years old, and he was fined $293,000 for possessing everything.
Hang on, how come it was $1?
Oh
fine?
Man, you don't fine him for that. You give him a reward and you take it all to a museum. Like, for God's sake, you don't.
I mean, yeah, he preserved it well too. He preserved,
and he obviously wasn't doing anything criminal. He wasn't using the guns to rob banks or kill people. It's like, come on, he's 88 years old. Come on.
Well, I've found the article, guys. So let's. We were about to wrap on the
They
film,
found out when there was a fire in his house and he blasted his way out to escape.
84-year-old German sentenced after hiding World War II Nazi tank and anti-aircraft cannon, handy for any of those Allied air raids that might have traveled through a time portal. Klaus Dieter F., as German privacy laws restrict full identification, was ordered to pay a 255,000 euro fine, or $300,000 approximately.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a Panther. It was a Panther tank.
Yeah, like the article I have pulled up says that he had an 88 millimeter flak cannon, 70 assault rifles and machine guns, an unspecified number of semi and fully automatic pistols, more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and the tank.
Was he like an ex-SS guy who was hoping, the war was going to turn around, or
no idea?
He was awaiting orders all this time.
This is the tank. This is
like
the
I've
tank.
got my Panther 65% of the time. It works every time.
How do you keep this in a basement? Treasure bunker, they're calling it.
It says the man's neighbors claimed that the tank's presence was openly known in the community. So it's just like. Okay, so they even alleged that he drove the armored vehicle in the town.
They are sort of part of a Saving Private Ryan reenactment community.
I guess.
Doesn't sound like he was hiding it, really. It just like, they all know.
I mean, you can I mean, I know Germany must be quite sensitive about these things, but people are allowed. Private collectors and stuff are allowed to keep these things as long as they're deactivated and whatnot. Maybe
because they said that none of the guns or anything worked, so it was just there. I found a better article.
They're probably more upset about all the pistols.
Yeah, I know. In Germany, they are definitely. They're so sensitive. By the way, they have one less letter in their alphabet. They have A through Y, not Z.
I've never heard that joke before.
That's because I made it up.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, look, I might. I'm aware we've been on for a while. God, we've been on for way longer than I even thought. But I want to have a quick chat with Matt about his movie and give it a bit of a plug. I don't know if you guys want to stay on for that.
For sure.
I don't. Matt, do you have anything else you want to say about the Thin Red Line? I'm sorry we kind of cut you out.
No. I think I've given my feelings on Thin Red Line, and I think I stand pretty much with shoulder to shoulder with everyone else here on my opinion of it. It's a fantastic movie. So, and shot in Australia. So
yeah, mate, I'll just show you the location report that I did quickly, and then we'll talk about the cost.
I have a Facebook friend who's a stuntman, and he's always got Thin Red Line stories and his photographs, and so he was a soldier on it.
You should have got him to come on.
I don't know him that well, so but
this would be a good opportunity for you to get to know him better, then, wouldn't it? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, a lot of crew that a lot of crew people that I've met over the years in Australia have all got they all worked on Thin Red Line when it came to Australia, but
I'm sure
that's gone back 20 years now.
Matt, I'm sure this creek is the same creek in the first episode of Band of Brothers Pacific where they first clashed with the Japanese.
Oh, Japanese. Yeah, it could be. But honestly, man, the amount of beaches we've got in Australia, you'd probably find 50, 60 of those in one stretch. It's so vast. Like,
well, I mean, Queensland... I know it's also shot in Queensland, a lot of it's Pacific, apart from, as you said, the Melbourne episode.
Yeah.
So
Queensland is so big that you can't quite fathom how much beach there is in Queensland. It's phenomenal.
Now, Gord King, an uninspired reviewer, do you know if I can share a video here and have the sound on?
Normally, yes.
I've never been able to share them without where I've got the sound to work.
Normally there's like a something that it tells you when you want to screen share. It says share system audio, so I think that's what you have to do.
Because it'd be great if we could quickly show the trailer for Matt's film, which is about to open. Matt, could you send me a link?
Yeah, just give me one tick
for it.
Where am I putting it in the chat here?
Yeah, put it in the chat as well, just in case I can't get it to work. So, in case you guys missed
I'll put it in the StreamYard here, in StreamYard chat. Boom,
Matthew's also a director, and this will be his, I think, fourth feature film.
Third.
Okay, all right. We're not counting that other one.
No, we don't count that. That's not finished yet, and hopefully never will be. So,
okay. Yeah. I shouldn't go and put the hat on for that movie because it's within reach. Just that.
Yeah, don't put that.
Okay.
Black out one of the letters and make it something else.
Okay. All right. It's got to put it fart below.
But Legend of Ben Hall, the poster behind me here, that's my second film. If anyone's interested in Australian history and bushrangers and like Australian outlaws, that's my film.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, Uninspired was telling me he's into a bit of bush, so I think he's up for watching that. So let me. So if I'm sharing this on YouTube, this is from your channel. So I'm wondering if I'll get ratioed and I don't know. But hey, man, at this stage in the game, I'm quite. happy.
Why don't you add it as like a video file in StreamYard?
Matt, do you have it as a video file you can send me?
Yeah, I could, but it's probably a bit too big to get there
immediately. Can you send it on WeTransfer or? Oh, well, yeah. Try uploading it yourself. Try uploading it on.
Wait, let me see.
See if you can. Uninspired is pretty good at this kind of shit, man. He's French, you know.
So I uploaded something. Maybe I don't know if it's fully uploaded. Can you see?
Yeah, let me have a look.
Yeah, there it is.
Whoa. Okay, can we hear it?
Yeah.
I can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I know I could. I was just wondering if chat can hear it, but okay. Well,
Yeah. Normally, since the video file it presents, so like, yeah.
Okay, so this is a movie that Matt shot in lockdown for not a lot of money. I'm gonna mute myself, and I won't mute myself actually in case that stops the sound from working. But I'll turn my camera off while we watch this, and then I'll invite Matt to speak about it after.
So let me ask you guys an honest question. Are you serious campers? Or are you just up here getting away from the missus and the kids? For me, it's a getaway. You married?
Hey, baby.
Not anymore.
Just letting you know I'm on my way home now.
She was murdered.
Troy Chapman, you raped and murdered Stephanie Baker. You were sentenced to 32 years. They let you out in 10. I'm her husband.
I'm a brother. I have spent years planning every detail of this. She begged you to stop. And wash away. It's not too late. You still let me go.
What makes you think we'd ever let you go?
Remember what he did to her. You keep that in front of your mind. This is justice, mate. And we're the only ones who can give it to her.
You do this, you will never be the same.
I love you.
He's letting him get inside your head. He's manipulating you. If we go through with this, I won't be able to live with it. We have gone so far past the point of no return.
There we are.
Nice.
That's the second time I've shown this trailer on mine.
I'm actually pretty hyped for the movie now.
Yeah.
This is up my alley. These are movies that I always watch. You know, ever since I was a kid, I always like to watch already very violent movies in terms of this type of violence where it's not, overtly just knocking people out and seeing guts spilling everywhere. But man, this is really up my alley in terms of what I watch.
Leroy Peters says, wow. Jacob Ironside says, damn, this looks crazy good. Darth Plato says, good sound cues, which I would also agree with.
Mm-hmm.
I might go and see that. Matt, we'll do a proper interview with you when this movie's out. But just, quickly in a nutshell, just give chat a brief overview of kind of how it came about. And I know I was lucky enough to be one of the first people to read the script when Matt said, hey, have a read of this, tell me what you think. And I was like, this is pretty bloody good, mate. See what happened with the accent there? And then I was also lucky enough to be one of the first people to see the first cut of the movie too. So always feel quite attached to the film on that basis. Gary Bolter's in the chat. I've seen it, and so should you. Yeah, he came to one of your screenings.
He came to one of the screenings, yeah. Yeah, look, it was it came about because I was, wanted to get out and make another movie, and so we thought of what can we do that was nice and contained. What was a cool story that we could do that was really contained, and I got three of the best actors that I knew, and they had a lot to do with shaping the script, and their performances in the movie are just bloody amazing. So definitely, they did an amazing job. So. Yeah, it comes out in Australia in about 3 weeks. It comes out in the UK in December. And I just can't wait to get audiences to see it because it's a movie that we really want people to watch it and get them thinking because it asks a lot of very heavy questions about vigilantism, the psychology of vigilantism, and it looks at what is justice, what is vengeance, and what does it mean if you really go ahead and do something like this? It's not like a very Hollywood movie, and it's not like Machine Gun Preacher or something like that. It's much more, it looks at it from a more grounded, realistic perspective. So yeah,
great stuff.
Yeah, awesome. I hope the US get it in December, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the distributor in the US. But Uninspired Reviewer, if you would like to have a look at the movie, and just hit me up and I'll sort it out.
Oh, for sure, man. I was even about to add it to my watch list on IMDb.
I just did.
Well, there you go.
Guys. I mean, guys, if you're interested in having a look and potentially discussing the movie on your channels, I'm quite happy to send you a screener. So
yeah.
Well, why don't you? We'll sort that out with Matt, and I've got both these guys on my Twitter, Matt. So I can, if you send it any kind of link, I can privately send it to them, or you can. You're not on Twitter, are you? You're not.
I'm not on Twitter, so I'd have to. I can give you a private screener online. You can have a look, because I don't know when it's going to come out in your country. So it could be ages.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't even have a French distributor yet, so I'll just send you the link so you can see it.
Let's get them the screener. They can watch it, and then what we can do is we can do another one of these where we talk about the cost and kind of make it an industry interview. But I can have Gordon and Uninspired back.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'd be very interested with Uninspired Viewer, because you said you're very much into philosophical films, and I would say that in many ways the cost is quite philosophical. I guess in the questions that it asks and poses. So yeah, be interested to hear your thoughts on it.
And does it have any pumpkins in it? I forget. Don't think it does.
Don't think it has any.
There's a scene on a farm.
That's probably for the best. It looks like they wouldn't make it.
Yes, we can't. Gord, we can't include that in our special stream we're doing in pumpkins in films, starting with Day of the Jackal and then of course Halloween through 1 through 37. Fantastic. So, Gord King, to you first. Thanks for coming on. What you got coming up, streaming wise? You've just done a brilliant Lord of the Rings
Power
video. Rings of Power video, man. That was so fun.
Yeah,
I had such a good time watching that. I gotta, Matt, you got to see it. It's very funny.
Right. If it's taking the piss out of Rings of Power, then I'll have a great time.
He approached it with an open mind of, let me see what this is like.
Okay.
But
ultimately did take the piss out of it.
Yeah, I mean,
because ultimately, what else can you do with that?
Yeah, it's nails on a chalkboard in its best moments. But I just released that yesterday. It actually pushed me as of right now, right to 600 subs.
Nice.
They haven't updated my watch hours yet, but if the math is right, actually that should push me to their lower tier monetization also, or right on the cusp of it. So that's pretty cool.
Great.
And
well, I just became your 601st subscriber. So
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's very Star Warsy. It's like you're the 601st Stormtrooper Legion or something.
Well, I'm telling you, Gord, the video will do very, very well. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
hit the algorithm soon.
I think I need to make a video like that, but I've got to do something else because it's not gonna. Maybe I need to do one about the Shield, because it's one of my favorite shows.
That'll be a good one.
Do a big edit about. I mean, what's the? You haven't done much audio. It's you talking the whole way through. What's the copyright around kind of? You under your audio, you've got lots of shots of the episodes and 6 different sequences.
I managed to get away with longer than I get away usually up to 8. I have a couple of shots that are quite a bit long. I have one shot. There's that pan across the I think it's called the Southlands in the show where the where the humans
you're commenting on it, right?
I'm commenting over the whole thing, and I even made sure about 7 seconds in to have my avatar pop up and have a little thought bubble to kind of, I guess, sort of faux interrupt the shot.
Yep.
But I managed to get the whole thing past copyright on the first upload, surprisingly enough. But I usually edit around 6 to 8 seconds per clip, unless it's shorter. And
right.
But yeah, obviously I'll be working on episode 2 at some point. I'll be going through that whole thing, but I'm staggering those reviews because I have to do some things that I like also. So I'm probably going to do a video about I'm going to probably do the Star Wars movies in between and maybe a few reaction videos also.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, so I've got your review. So for those people watching, you know,
I'm gonna watch it after, make a cuppa and sit down and watch it straight after the show.
Hey, look at that. Well, I'm dropping the link in. It's going in the chat right now.
I've since found it. So yeah.
But Gord King, apart from those other bits you got coming up, are you on? Did we meet on Cannoli's stream or Dark Hours? I forget.
It was Cannoli's.
Yeah. Cannoli.
I was there too.
Yeah, he was there too.
You were there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the three of us met, actually.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I met a whole load of people on Dark Hour's channel, and I've met a whole load of people on Cannoli's channel. I get you all mixed up now, especially as Dark Hour and Cannoli look really similar.
I mean, Dark Hours is my show too.
Yeah, dude. I haven't been on Dark Hour, and
it's because you're cross-pollinating Uninspired. It's very confusing.
It's true.
Oh, so guys, Matt's dropped the screener link for you in private chat. Can you see that?
Ooh, nice.
So you can even watch that today. So copy and paste and put that somewhere secret. Don't share it with any other third parties, please.
No.
That includes Copa Banana or Vex Electronica. Or, don't start sharing it around. This is just for you two, okay? On pain of death.
On pain of death.
Yeah. Suddenly it's going to be Matt. You're going to click on some pirate site. And it's going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, that'll be a little heartbreaking.
We'll know who to blame.
We will indeed. But that screen has just gone out to a whole bunch of critics in Australia. So I'm going to be interested to see what they come back with. But we'll see. So there you go.
Nice.
Well, fortunately, the two most important people have just been sent it, so it's going to be more about what they think. Okay, so Gord, any other streams you got coming up, or any other bits like with other channels and stuff?
As far as what I had previously scheduled, or today, I guess I kind of just came on randomly. No, at the moment, not anything. Although my brother and I behind the scenes are currently working on an idea for a live show. Probably going to be covering movies that you could say are in our blind spot, or that maybe we've only seen once, but not in a really long time. But that's kind of the general basis.
So is that like movies without pumpkins?
Possibly. I haven't seen every movie with my people.
And Uninspired Reviewer. So you're going to be on Cannoli's next Monday, I'm guessing.
I think it's Spaceballs normally.
Oh man, I've got to be on that. I asked him what it is, and he said he wasn't sure. I've got to be on that one.
I think that's the 29th. So normally this coming Monday, if not this Monday, next. No, wait.
Yeah,
no, 25th this Monday. Yeah,
I saw that at the cinema, man.
I still haven't seen it. I'm gonna watch it for the first time before the stream.
Well, there's a hilarious scene in the film where it's not a spoiler telling you this, where they decide to rent out the VHS video of Spaceballs so they can work out how to solve the dilemma that they're currently trying to solve by fast forwarding to that spot in the movie to see how they solved it.
I love that scene so much.
That's a very clever scene. Parts of the film have not aged that well, but there's still a lot of fun to be had with it. Has to be said. So you're doing Spaceballs Monday. Uninspired. Anything else?
So tonight, actually, I'm gonna be on Zax's channel, so Zax Tube, and that's gonna be like 3 a.m. UK time, so it's 4 a.m. my time.
Oh, and, dude! So you're going for a little nap now?
No. I'm pulling an all-nighter. I have to work on my old boy video, so yeah.
Okay.
So I'm on with Zax tonight. We're gonna talk about One Piece because I'm a big One Piece fan. So yeah, and on Friday I'm gonna be with Atom Gray and Barbara Lawrence on their channel B-Roll, and we're gonna be just watching and riffing around, watching public domain, the 1950s movies basically is what we do, and it's really, really fun. And in terms of video stuff, I'm just working on my old boy analysis right now. I hope to get it done before the 30th, but it is looking bleak to finish at that time. So yeah, but because it's gonna be a big video, I'm planning on doing a lot of stuff, and I'm in the collecting info phase, and wow, there is so much info to collect. It is crazy. So yeah.
I bet.
Well, I'm back on Saturday with my longest day discussion. So as I said, guys, if you're not already committed to 70 other streams this week, feel free to jump on. It'd be great to have you on. Doing a longest day review and discussion on my own would be hugely entertaining. I have invited Aram and Darth Plato, who's still in the chat, to come on that as well. So they may well pop on. They've got their stream tomorrow night on Hamburger Hill, which I may or may not be on, depending on what time I get in and also what kind of state I am when I get in. So yeah, and then I'll be doing my gaming stream probably on Sunday night. I will definitely be streaming on Monday, and I'll be streaming this time next week as well.
Nice.
Need to work out what I'm doing, but I've got a couple of reviews I want to do. And of course, I'll be doing Ahsoka again next week. I wish I was doing Ahsoka. But yeah, it was. I really enjoyed this week's episode, and I've already taken flack over that in my comments section, where someone's just trying to convince me I didn't enjoy it at all, and they're upset that I enjoyed it. But I did enjoy it. I thought it had a lot of really cool ideas, and I really liked the kind of undead stormtroopers, and so I had, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun mainly because it was all the bad guys, and Ahsoka and the other rebels were hardly in it, so don't know what that says, but and Retro Nerd Girl is in the chat. I'm normally guesting on her show a couple of times a month. I'm not sure when we're doing that next, but soon, I hope. And she knows, of course, as well, that she's welcome on my channel anytime. I'm not sure the longest day is her bag, but Retro, if you want to come and do a longest day with me on Saturday, please do. Yeah, so I guess that's it from me. Just let people know also that my latest screenplay book, because, this is my channel, so I can self-promote a bit, can't I? That's allowed. So my latest screenplay book is out on Amazon. It's out on Amazon.com. It's also out on Amazon.co.uk and also the various others. And this is the screenplay for one of my World War II projects, because I'm producing all my screenplays are getting published for all of the projects I've written, whether they're going to get made or not, because I don't want my work on the screenplays to go to waste. So if you're interested in the true story, very true story, not wishy-washy true, like Saving Private Ryan, Paratrooper the Pilot, which is also the first 2 episodes of the European Band of Brothers type show, is now on Amazon to purchase. There's 2 of my actors, because we did do a whole second unit battle day, and that was the day we had all the tanks and stuff like that. There's one of our tanks that we had. So yeah, you can read the screenplay for that, and you can also read about the concept for the rest of the series. There's already 2 episodes of it out. Episodes 7 and 8, which are very self-contained, which is why I released them first, are also out on Amazon, as is the Pegasus Bridge script. So do check those out. I guess that's it. So Thanks to my guests. Apologies to Matthew sincerely for the miscommunication with the time. That was entirely my fault, not his.
I wouldn't have been much use to you much earlier anyway. I was barely... Yeah, I'd only just woken up, so I was a bit there.
He's on
being on the other side of the world.
He's on Australian time, and Uninspired Reviewers about to do a stream at 4:00 in the morning Paris time.
Oh yeah!
Wow,
it's so well that we're being paid so well for doing these things on YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to meet you guys. I'm now subscribed to your channels, and
thank you, man.
and I'll get into your content, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. So thank you.
And thanks to chat for watching it. Appreciate you guys coming in, And yes, I have seen Zone Troopers, and yes, I have seen Dead Snow. And I'm trying to get Charles Band, who is the producer of Zone Troopers and all of the Empire pictures. I'm trying to get him to come on the channel. On the 17th of October, I nearly forgot. I have Jeff Farley coming on the channel, so you won't know the name, but Google him. He's under Jeff S. Farley on IMDb. He is coming on. I'm on Critical Drinkers channel on the 2nd of October discussing The Thing. So I'll be on Critical Drinkers channel on the 2nd of October. And then on the 17th of October, I've got special effects artist Jeff Farley. He's done 2 seasons of Babylon 5. He also did the original Babylon 5 pilot. And he's got 150 other credits on IMDb, including Demolition Man and a whole lot of other things. So he's on the 17th of October. He's going to be a great guest. He's got some great stories. He's bringing on some props and little creatures and things. So the first film he ever worked on was Arena for Empire Pictures. If anybody ever remembers that, had a very cool poster down the video shop. So monsters kind of bashing each other. You don't remember the poster for Arena, Matt?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Now I'm gonna have to, I was just about to go, but now I'm going to have to put that up. I just done my outro. We were all wrapped up, and then I had to.
I can look it up myself. No.
I have to put it up in chat. Otherwise,
we have to show the people.
I have to show the poster, man. Now I've commented. Oh, that's not the original poster. So if you look it up on IMDb, it's the. I'm just trying to see if I can find. There we go. I found it. This is the poster that was at the video store, certainly in the UK. So this was Jeff Farley's first job, was on Arena, which is it's a Charles Band movie about this arena where monsters from all over the galaxy come to fight each other. This is the same company that did Robojocks not long after this.
I remember Robojocks, but I never saw this at the video store. Yeah, this mustn't have. Oh, hang on, I remember that one.
Yeah, this.
Not that one, the one before.
Yeah, that's
that one. That was the one we had in Australia.
Okay. Well, Jeff Farley made that creature, as well as the other creatures that you can see so there's Screaming Mad George also working on. So he worked alongside Screaming Mad George. I think that might be Jeff in that still. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is Jeff because that picture's on his website. And that's the guy that would play Quark in...
Star Trek.
Yeah, in not Babylon 5, the other one, Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Armin Shimmerman, there you go, in Arena. So he was also
being under makeup, yeah.
Yeah, so that's Mark Almino from Deep Space Nine also in it. Okay, we're getting into a whole other stream here. Right, let's wrap this up. All right. Okay, thanks to my guests again. Thanks for everybody watching. That's going to be a great guest. So, guys, put it in your channel. And Two Tone, you've also got another sub. There you go. From
Joe. Nice. So, thanks for subbing.
So, guys, we'll see you all again real soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.